We're now live.
Thank you, Lori, and good morning, everyone. Sorry for the couple of minutes delay. We're having some technical difficulties, so we're all on board today. So it is just past 9 o'clock on Tuesday, March 22nd. So I will call the meeting to order. And Mallory, through you, if you could do roll call, please.
Of course. So Councillor Clark.
Present.
Councillor Donaldson.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Kennedy.
Present.
Councillor McKechnie.
Present.
Councillor Smith.
Present.
Councillor Wood Roberts.
Present.
And Mayor Roberts.
Present.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll just read our Dysart land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that Dysart et al. Is located on Treaty 20, Michi-Sagig territory, and in the traditional territory of the Michi-Sagig and Chippewa nations, collectively known as the Williams First Treaty Nations, which include Curve Lake, Hiawatha, Alderville, Scugog Island, Rama, Beau-Soleil, and Georgina Island First Nations. These ancestral homes are more than a place where the Anishinaabe hunted, fished, gathered, and grew their food long before the settlers' arrival. Indigenous people cared for these lands and waters and have welcomed us as their guest. We pay them respect by ensuring we continue to recognize their ongoing connection to the area and by supporting the health and integrity of the lands and community for generations to come. Next, I will look for an adoption of the agenda. Excuse me. Moved by Councillor Wood Roberts. Excuse me. And seconder by Deputy Mayor Kennedy. Be it resolved that the agenda for the regular meeting of the Council of the Municipality of Dysart et al. Held on March 22nd, 2022 be approved as presented. All in favor? Okay, that carries. And next I'll look to see if there's any disclosure of pecuniary interest. And Councillor Donaldson?
Yeah, under general discussion, delegation, I think it's 3B.
Okay, and because you just state why.
Oh, it's Adventure Halliburton, and I am a member of that group.
Okay, thank you very much. I have also filed a declaration in the same section under 3C for the Rotary delegation regarding the bike program, and that is because my husband is a member of the Rotary Club. So at that point, Deputy Mayor Kennedy will be chairing that portion, and I'll have my camera off. Okay, so those have been filed with the clerk, and next we have adoption of the following minutes from regular council, February 22nd, and the public meeting of February 22nd. Mover and a seconder for those, please. Councillor Smith, and seconded by Deputy Mayor Kennedy. Be it resolved that council approves the following meeting minutes as circulated: regular council February 22nd, 2022, and public meeting February 22nd, 2022. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. Councillor McKechnie, I'm going to ask you to just tilt your screen ever so slightly because I'm actually just not quite able to see you. So if you are moving and seconding and putting your hand up, that would be great. I can see a little bit better. Where are we? Mayor and Deputy Mayor's update. I don't actually have a lot to update. Just simply to say tomorrow at the county meeting in the afternoon, we'll be having the service delivery review meeting once again. So that's a very thorough section by section of the service delivery review that was done at the county in conjunction with the local municipalities. So looking forward to that. There's also tomorrow in the morning a report from the City of Kawartha Lakes regarding the affordable housing program, and Deputy Mayor Kennedy may want to speak a bit more to that. So I'll leave that to you to highlight if you want. And just to remind councillors that on this Friday, we have a meeting in the morning. It's a special meeting, a public meeting for the application for the college in Glee Park. We could have inserted it in today's meeting, but we wanted to give it ample time in case there was many people from the public. And so we've chosen to do that on a special day. And also it was for circulation timing process. I don't think it met the date. So anyway, it's great. We have that Friday morning, and then Friday afternoon, the meeting that was postponed for our strategic planning begins at 1 p.m. in the afternoon. So that's my update. I'll turn it over to you, Deputy Mayor Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Not much to report on other than looking forward to spring coming and getting rid of this winter. In regards to the Kawartha housing report, I was pleased to see in that recommendation and comments regarding the county paying for such things as connection fees for sewer hookups. Something I had lobbied for earlier this year, and was glad to see it's still moving forward. And I believe there's funding in the budget. It also will open up the doors to the other communities in our county that don't have services such as water and or sewage. So the exciting kind of a progression in that initiative, and looking forward to discussions tomorrow on that. That's about it today. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I also just want to note I am wearing a little lapel in memory of, not memory, it's awful to say, just in thoughts and prayers of the people of Ukraine. We also were requested to fly the flag at the arena, of which we've done so. So, you know, if there's further things we can do as a local municipality, I look forward to those. So with that said, we are going to move into the public meeting, which means we actually adjourn this meeting. So I'm going to look for a mover and a seconder to adjourn this meeting to go into the public meeting. That's Councillor Wood Roberts and seconded by Councillor McKechnie. Be it resolved that council hereby adjourns the regular meeting of council at 9:10 a.m. to proceed into a public meeting to consider the following: a zoning bylaw amendment, draft bylaw number 2022-24, which is the lands of Minna and Hamel, and also a zoning bylaw amendment for draft bylaw 2022-28, which is the lands of Bristol. All in favor? Okay, so we are now in the public meeting, and before we begin the public meeting, I'm going to read a little preamble for those of you listening and wanting to speak or comment on the meeting. Excuse me, I have a cough and I will try to turn my microphone off when I do that. So the public meeting is now come to order. A notice to all those in attendance that this meeting is being live streamed by YouTube and is being recorded. Please note that the recording will be linked to the municipal website following the meeting. The purpose of the meeting is to present planning applications in a planning form required under the Planning Act. It's a public meeting to consider two applications. During the public meeting, council will consider all information available regarding the proposed amendments, review the staff report, which includes any public comments received to date, and listen to all comments provided during the meeting. Following the presentations of staff and the applicant, council members will be afforded the opportunity to ask questions. The meeting will then be open to the public for further questions. And any oral or written submissions received in advance of the meeting will be verbally read aloud at the time the application is considered. All persons who have pre-registered will have an opportunity to present or ask questions about the proposal. And I'm skipping a few of the points because they are fairly straightforward, but the important part is that no decisions are actually made at the public meeting or applications. A public meeting is held to gather those public comments. After the public meeting is over, the meeting will be adjourned and will return to regular council. All those persons who have given the municipality written notice that they would like to receive notice of the decision will receive a copy of the decision. You must make this request in writing to the municipality. The Planning Act specifies that if a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the municipality of Dysart et al. Before the proposed bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the municipality to the Ontario Land Tribunal and may not be added to a party to an appeal unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. So at this point in time, I will turn it over to staff. We're going to bring in Chris Orson and Jeff Isles, I believe. I'll just wait till I see staff on the screen. Sorry. Good morning, Jeff. I see Chris is just coming in.
Morning.
And good morning, Chris.
Morning.
Okay, so we're in the public meeting and I'm going to turn it over to you to present the first application.
Perfect. Yep, this is for file D14ZB 2022-001. For circulation requirements, all neighboring property owners within the 120 meters were circulated as per the requirements of the Planning Act. To date, one public letter of support was provided and attached with the report. Brief outline of the proposed. The proposed of this report is to provide the background information and recommendations related to the zoning amendment application. The application was submitted in order to amend the existing waterfront residential type 4L zone to permit the development of a maximum of one Quonset hut greater than the 10 square meters to be used as a shed within the waterfront residential zone. For context, the Quonset hut or other corrugated steel, which is greater than 10 square meters in area, is not a permitted structure except in the rural and in the industrial zones. A Quonset hut is not a dwelling. And then just a brief description of the property. Based on the municipal mapping, the property is within an area of use limitation as identified by the municipal GIS mapping. The proposed will be located at the top of the slope on a relatively flat disturbed area where the existing driveway is located. The proposed structure will have a setback of approximately 70 meters from the lake. In addition, the shoreline setback of the subject property is undisturbed and is maintained in its natural state. And the proposed structure will not have any impact on the shoreline or vegetation buffer. Considering the above noted, staff do look for direction from council in order to permit a Quonset hut greater than the 10 square meters within a waterfront residential zone, which is currently not a permitted structure as per section 3.25 of the municipal zoning bylaw. If council does consider this application, the recommendation and bylaw may be appropriate as attached. That concludes the presentation. Staff would be happy to answer any questions. And I do believe that the consultant is in attendance as well to speak to the application, Stephanie Sharp.
Okay, so I'll just look to council first to see if there's any questions to staff at this point, and if not, we'll go directly to Stephanie. Okay, so we'll hold our question, or do you have a question, Deputy Mayor Kennedy? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, just and I guess a basic one. Is there a reason why a Quonset hut is as opposed to a conventional garage, which would not require a zoning amendment, I believe, but that's sort of the basic one.
Yeah, I would just go back that this was implemented in the bylaw by council back in, I believe, quite some time ago. The intent, I believe, was to permit corrugated steel structures that were less than 10 square meters in the waterfront zone for more of a steel shed, the types that you would buy at like Canadian Tire, those type of things. Corrugated structures such as a Quonset hut that's over the 10 square meters, I believe was just to sort of remove or to eliminate maybe the use of the Quonset huts or those corrugated larger steel structures within the waterfront. I believe it's for more maybe the visual, but that was just implemented by council in the zoning bylaw. So hopefully that sort of answers your question, but
I think so. If I recall, it was really an aesthetic type of thing. Generally speaking, stick frame garage is a little more appealing. However, so Stephanie, if that's okay, I'm going to turn it over to you, and then I'll still see if there's questions. Oh, Councillor Clark, I'll let you go first. Sorry, I didn't see.
Very quickly. Chris, it looks like it's going to be 70 meters back from the high water mark, which is good. It won't be visible from the lake. Is there any anything in the application that advises what they're going to be using the Quonset hut for?
My understanding, and Stephanie can definitely jump in when she does speak to this, is just for storage. So your typical storage that you would use for a garage type storage. That's my understanding.
Yeah, so it's not industrial or anything like that at all. So
no.
Okay.
No, that wouldn't be a permitted use. Stephanie, I think this would be a good appropriate time to turn it over to you and speak to the application.
Certainly, thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. Good morning, Mayor and Council. Thank you for taking the time to hear this application. I'm Stephanie Sharp, planner for Marie Poirier Planning and Associates, being the authorized agent for Jeff Hamill and Mary Minna, the property owners of 1192 Bay Breeze Road, being the location of the subject property. As Chris summarized, the purpose of this application is to construct a Quonset hut larger than the permitted 10 square meters on the above mentioned property. The Quonset hut larger than 10 square meters is not deemed a permitted structure in the zone applicable to the subject property as per zoning bylaw 2005-120. The location of the structure is proposed to be set back from the lake, not visible from the shoreline nor the road due to the extensive mature vegetation and the slope of the property. The use of the Quonset hut is consistent with that of a storage shed or a garage, being a permitted structure within the applicable zones in the zoning bylaw, as it is an accessory to the principal dwelling. Therefore, the relief being sought is from section 3.25 of the bylaw. Since the subject property is not located within any of the zones as outlined in that section, the property owners are not permitted to have a Quonset hut on their lands that's larger than 10 square meters. We are therefore requesting a site-specific zoning amendment to construct a structure for the use of storage. Upon review of the applicable official plan policies, the proposed Quonset hut conforms to both the county and township official plans and complies with all other provisions in the zoning bylaw. Additionally, corrugated steel is a material commonly used as a sustainable alternative to shingles due to steel's long lifespan and having a high recyclability rate. As noted above, the use of the proposed structures is permitted, and therefore the zoning bylaw amendment is to permit the construction of a Quonset hut with the size of 111.5 square meters. The Quonset hut does not offend any regulations in the zoning bylaw, and any visual impacts are heavily mitigated by the vegetation buffers and topography. A site plan was provided and attached to Appendix 1 of our planning justification report. We also provided additional visual renderings and photos to illustrate how the structure will not be visible from the shoreline. To summarize the justification outlined in a report, I provide the following. The Quonset hut will function as a storage shed on the property, being a permitted use in this waterfront residential designation. The structure is significantly set back from the shoreline at 70 meters or 230 feet, having no impact on the vegetation buffer. The structure meets the requirements of all other regulations in the zoning bylaw. There's a slope on the shoreline of the property, further mitigating any visual impact from the lake. The structure is mitigated from all other property lines through the extensive vegetation buffers. Shoreline vegetation on the property is dense and mature and will be retained. The proposal is consistent with the permitted uses as outlined in the waterfront designation. As summarized, the proposed structure doesn't offend any policies as it relates to the development in the waterfront residential property. Based on the above noted policy analysis and the justification provided, we respectfully request approval of the zoning bylaw amendment to permit a Quonset hut with an area of 111.5 square meters on the subject property. I am happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, Stephanie, thank you very much for those details to the application. I'll look to council and see if there's any questions for still either staff or Stephanie. Okay, Councillor Smith, go ahead.
Thank you. The question for staff, I guess, I presume that as was explained, the rationale for this is, the corrugated steel sort of looks like an industrial building. It's also used, obviously, in the agricultural area for storing farm implements and so forth. But for, I guess, the reason of aesthetics, council decided in the past they didn't want these in the waterfront area. And so if we were to approve this request, I'd like either Jeff or Chris to offer a perspective on how we distinguish this particular situation from, the the thousands of other waterfront properties in our community, and owners in those areas that may come forward and say, well, I'd also like to put one of these up. Do we want to throw the existing restriction altogether, or is there something about this particular situation that allows us to say, no, that's unique, and nobody else is going to get one of these things?
I'll let Chris answer, but I might answer first. My thought is just very reasons that Stephanie described, that it is able to be screened from all sides, including the waterfront, which is key, but as well as the road and even side lot lines. So I think that's why we're doing these on a one-of basis. It'll be a site specific, but Chris, if there's anything you want to add to that.
Sure, and I'm sure Jeff can jump in too. I can speak from more of a policy perspective that we would look at through the visual of the official plan, those type of things, and based on the visual, from the shoreline, from the lake, those type of things, it's not visible. So in our opinion, just reviewing it in that lens, it would meet those criterias. However, again, it's a council decision as to how, I guess, they would want to see this kind of go forward, but we would look at it through that lens. And I think, Jeff, I don't know if you have any further comment on that.
Sure, if I may, as Chris mentioned, the structure appears to be well vegetated. These provisions were implemented at the sole discretion of council, so there's no really official plan policies or provincial policies relating to restricting the use of Quonset huts in the waterfront. This was at council's discretion, similar to yurts, where I think it's for aesthetic values, property values, where they restricted these types of structures. So really, it's at council's sole discretion if they want to permit these types of structures moving forward, or on a one-off basis.
I think that was the intent. It is a one-of, and so that they had to sort of prove their case, which unless I don't see any objection so far to this particular application, but I think it's a good process that we don't just open the floodgates and permit completely, that they just have to go through these hoops to get a planner and put in an application for a zoning amendment. I just had a couple comments to Stephanie. I'm sure you've read the staff report, but just of note, the building department did have some comments, so the applicant will have to continue with the regarding the septic system and the open dwelling permit for occupancy. Okay, so those are been relayed. Is there anyone from the public that had registered to speak, or are there any written comments that were received to date on this application? Staff, Jeff, Chris?
No, not that I'm aware of. There's no public
Okay.
comments.
Okay, just from Stephanie. Any further questions from council? If not, I'll look for a mover and a seconder. Councillor McKechnie, Councillor Wood Roberts. Be it resolved that the report for file number D14, zoning bylaw 2022-001. Is that correct? It doesn't. Oh, sorry. Sorry, am I reading the right number there? In the resolution, it's 20. Oh, it is file number 001. I'm sorry. Yep. Sorry, I had read earlier -2020 or 24, so I just want to make sure I've got the right thing. Lands of Minna and Hamel, which consists of part lot 29, concession 10 in the geographic township of Guildford, municipality of Dysart et al. Be received for information. And the council directs a draft bylaw to be brought forward for consideration during its March 22nd, 2022 regular meeting. After that, council recommends approval of the proposed draft bylaw 2022-24. All in favor? Okay, so that's carried. Thank you, and thank you, Stephanie, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next file is Lands of Risto. Chris, I'm going to turn that back over to you again to go through the staff report.
Thank you. Yep, this is for file D14 ZB 2022-002 Lands of Risto. The neighboring property owners were circulated, so at 120 meters of the subject property, as per the requirements of the Planning Act. One comment received was from Percy Lake Association related to the public notice. Staff would like to note that there was a clerical error in the public notice that identified the proposed storage shed as a boathouse. However, the proposed application is to permit a storage shed within the water setback. And therefore, it's staff's opinion the clerical error does not have an adversary effect to the proposal being considered by council today. The applicant would like to rezone their property located on Briarwood Trail in order to permit a storage shed within the required water setback from Percy Lake. Subject to meeting the requirements of section 15.2.2 of the official plan as outlined in the planning report. The property, the description of the property is a waterfront residential lot on a plan subdivision lot number 2, plan 19M3. The frontage and with frontage on Percy Lake and access through a private road known as Briarwood Trail. The subject property is well vegetated with a moderate slope of approximately 15 to 20% grade. There are no water courses or wetland communities identified on the subject property. Existing development of the property contain a seasonal dwelling and a garage and a dock. The applicant is proposing to develop a storage shed, which requires a zoning amendment as per section 15.22 of the special policy area as outlined in the official plan. It is staff's opinion that with the implementation of the concurrent site plan agreement, the proposal as submitted will be consistent with the provincial policy statement, generally conforms with the official plan, generally meets the intent of the zoning bylaw, is appropriate and represents good planning. And that concludes the presentation if anybody has any questions.
Okay, so for the first part, we'll look to see if there's questions from council to staff on the staff report. At this point, go ahead, Deputy Mayor Kennedy.
Yeah, and Chris, this seems kind of odd to me. We're talking about a lake trout lake at capacity. We're talking about a lot that has spawning beds directly in front of it. Is this amendment across the board for lots that are in excess of 15 degrees of slope, or is this a Percy Lake unique thing? Or it's just kind of surprised to see all the work that we've been doing with shorelines, and now we're going to allow a shed within 6 meters of the water, and it's allowed in a zoning amendment. It just doesn't seem to fit one with the other.
And that's a great question. But yes, as outlined in the official plan, it is a special policy area that was implemented on Percy Lake for these types of properties that are 15% or more grade, to allow for storage down the waterfront and to allow for some storage so people aren't having to go back and forth up and down the embankment. So yeah, based on the official plan and based on the policies as outlined, it does meet those criterias. And what they are proposing will be within the sized area of the 9.3 square meters. And yeah, so it does meet that criteria of the special policy area.
Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Kennedy.
Okay, thanks for that, Chris. And the only thing I would comment, I looked further on in the agenda, the M&R requires in this type of situation that construction not occur during spawning time, which in lake trout is October the 1st on. So I'd like to see that comment included in a site plan agreement if this in fact is approved by council. Thank you.
Absolutely, and I would definitely suggest just bringing that up at that time as well through the site, and then we can add that as a condition or something in that nature.
Okay, and yes, I do. This there's no other lake where we put this particular exemption, I guess I'll call it, in, and it was done at the time of the development of Percy Lake lots up there. So I do see a comment or a question from Councillor Clark next.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. Okay, Chris, normally buildings along the lakefront between the residents and the lakefront are not normally approved, and we don't do boathouses of that anymore. Normally it's a pump house or maybe a deck or dock structure. I think in some municipalities they'll allow a sauna or something like that. I take it then the rationale on this one is the fact that it is quite a steep slope and that this is going to be used for storage purposes only. Is there some way of guaranteeing that that's the use going forward and that there's no fuel or anything stored in the shed? How do we manage that?
I guess it's something if council at their discretion would like to have something added in the site plan agreement to further clarify, I guess, what is permitted in the storage shed. That could be something that I guess they could consider. Jeff, I don't know if you have any further comment on that.
Yes, thank you. If I may, the zoning bylaw is going to be amended to permit a storage shed only. So anything, if they change the use or use it in a way that doesn't comply with our policies, then it will become an enforcement matter.
To Councillor Clark's question, though, once a storage shed is permitted, we're not going to go in it and see what they're storing in there. It means that there's no sleeping. It means that there's no other use other than storage. But yeah, we can't say that they can't put gas in a storage shed. Is there a size limit to the shed? I'm trying to read that quickly and I didn't find that. Do we limit the, yes, okay, the applicant's nodding. So
9.3 square meters.
Thank you. Okay, I was trying to find that. At this time only, if there's no further questions to staff, I want to let the applicant speak to the file. So hi, good morning, Mark and Joanne. Welcome. And yep, we've got your mic off and I'll turn it over to you to add any further details.
Okay, great. Well, good morning. Thanks for hearing us. Pretty straightforward, really. We're getting a little bit older. It's a long slug up and down the hill. We're on one of the 30-meter setbacks, in the new development. So it's a little bit further than the 20-meter setbacks. As I said, we qualify as a steep lot. So it's that simple. We just prefer not to be going up and down the hill a ton with our fishing rods, life jackets, chairs, all of the usual waterfront supplies. So it's that straightforward, really. And there's lots of sheds on the lake. Most of them are grandfathered, and most of them would be on the old 20-meter setback lots. We just thought, we would do this properly and go before you guys and hopefully get approval. So it's quite simple, really, and I don't think there's any more to it than that. Just trying to save our poor old legs and back as we get older.
I think what makes this unique is that this was put in to the Dysart zoning bylaw, that it's this unique particular area on Percy Lake. It's not across our whole municipality. So some councillors are, just like, oh my gosh, what do you mean a shed on the shoreline? Of note too, to make sure that you adhere to the county tree bylaw. I don't know if that's, to make sure that where you're placing this, that you do not cut down any healthy trees that are greater than 5 centimeters in diameter. So I would make sure that you take a lot of pictures before you prepare your area. Any further questions or comments? Deputy Mayor Kennedy again, go ahead.
Yeah, I can definitely appreciate the hills get steeper as we get older. Is the location, you got 6 meters from the water, is that sort of the convenient area that's a little bit more stable or flatter to put it? Or is there a reason why it's, I know the minimum was 4, just why isn't it 8 or 10 meters back? That's the only, if it's just a matter of convenience, that's fine. Just curiosity more than anything.
Yeah, that's a good question, Pat. There's a little bit of a level area there where it steps off a big rock and then it goes down about 4 feet and then it levels off and then it goes down again. So it's a convenient spot to the entrance of the dock. And there's a little bit of a level area there. It's still going to be a challenge getting this in there because of the steepness, but there's one little location that's sort of perfect for it. So it's that simple. It's just a little bit of a flat spot in a steep area. So I'm going to take advantage of that flat spot.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so that makes sense. I will just ask staff, is there anyone from the public that was wanting to speak, and are there any written public comments to this application?
No, there does not appear to be any public comments or anybody in the queue for any comments on this application.
Okay, so then I will look to council to move in second to see if we move this file forward. Councillor Donaldson and Councillor McKechnie. Be it resolved that the report for the lands of Risto, which consists of lot 26 and 27, concession 8, lot 2, 19M-3 in the geographic township of Harbourne, municipality of Dysart et al., be received for information, and that council directs the bylaw be brought forward for consideration during its March 22nd, 2022 regular meeting, and that council recommends approval of the proposed bylaw 2022-28. All in favor? Okay, so that's carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are you welcome, I suppose? So that concludes the public meeting today. So thank you to the Ristos, and then I will look for a mover and a seconder to adjourn the public meeting and convene back to our regular meeting. Councillor Donaldson and Councillor Wood Roberts. Be it resolved that council hereby adjourn the public meeting at 9:39 a.m. and reconvenes to the regular meeting of council. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. So just get me back. A lot of paper to shuffle here. So we're back in our regular meeting and we have 3 delegations. We're a little tad behind, so we'll try to keep them hopping along. We're going to bring in Corey McKay. I see she's already here from the county, the climate change coordinator, and she's here to present the draft corporate adaptation plan. Good morning, Corey.
Good morning, Mayor Roberts and members of council. I'll just share my screen with you here. And there we go. So today I'm presenting a draft of the corporate climate change adaptation plan as was presented at County Council. So this is phase 2 of the climate change planning process, with phase 1 being corporate mitigation, which council approved a plan in the fall of 2020, and phase 3 being the community plan, which is in the beginning stages of development right now. The purpose of creating a corporate climate change adaptation plan is that it provides a first step for understanding the climate-related risks that impact our municipal operations and services, and also provides steps to embed resiliency across municipal operations, assets, and infrastructure. So this plan covers things like parks, public works, administration, those climate impacts to private property, business operations, or overall community well-being will be investigated through the development of the community plan. It's important to note that climate adaptation planning is not necessarily new. It builds on years of action from our local governments addressing severe rainfalls, extreme heat, and intense storms. So the actions in this plan serve as a guide to continue that work. There's a strong business case for local governments developing these plans. Municipalities are on the front lines of responding to extreme weather events, and this has impacts on both service levels as well as budgets. Local governments also have a variety of mechanisms under their control to influence climate adaptation, whether that's education and outreach, policy and program development, or capital investments. It's also cost-effective to proactively plan ahead. It's estimated that for every dollar that's invested in risk mitigation measures, approximately $6 is saved in future damages. To highlight some of our local climate projections, we are seeing and will continue to see an increase in the average annual temperature, with significantly more days above 30 degrees, as well as less snow and very cold days. We're seeing an increase in the average annual precipitation, with rainfall that's concentrated in more extreme events with longer dry spells in between those events. And we are seeing more intense storms and more variable water levels. So these climate projections have impacts on our municipal operations and services. There were 16 impacts that were carried into the action planning stage, meaning that they presented significant vulnerability and risk. So those impacts that have a high vulnerability are those that are adversely affected by climate variability and extremes, so meaning that they have a high sensitivity, and where adjustment would require a high level of cost and disruption, so meaning there's a low adaptive capacity. And the risk of an outcome is both the likelihood of it happening as well as the consequences of it occurring. The plan centers around 4 main goals. First, ensuring that current and future infrastructure is adapted to withstand the impacts of a changing climate. Second, to protect municipal natural assets and enhance nature-based solutions. Third, to minimize health risks to outdoor staff and provide resources to the community to improve their capacity to adapt. And lastly, to integrate climate adaptation planning into municipal plans and processes. The plan centers around 28 actions that relate to 11 strategies. So just to quickly highlight some of the strategies, reducing the risk of infrastructure becoming overburdened in a future climate that has more intense rainfall events, continuing to invest in preventative and routine maintenance of municipal infrastructure, ensuring that both municipal buildings as well as community parks and recreation spaces are more resilient to more variable and extreme weather, continuing to maintain and expand those outdoor recreation spaces that provide a reprieve from the heat, ensuring the flexibility of outdoor recreation opportunities as we may experience either less snow or more extreme heat, enhancing the health and safety of staff, utilizing our municipal assets to enhance the health and safety of the community, leveraging external resources such as provincial or federal funding in order to build adaptive capacity, mainstreaming climate considerations into municipal decision-making, as well as building the internal capacity to respond to a changing climate. So looking ahead to implementation and monitoring of the plan, it's recommended that priority is first given to those actions that integrate with existing work plans. So things like implementing a climate change lens on staff reports to council and conducting climate awareness training for staff have been identified as important short-term priorities to ensure that this work is integrated into daily municipal operations. And it's also recommended that a more comprehensive implementation plan for those actions that might involve more resources or staff time is developed for all 3 phases of climate change planning. It's also recommended that there are annual progress updates to councils. So I believe each fall, the corporate mitigation updates come to council, so integrating updates on this plan as well, and reviewing the plan every 5 years. So looking at updated climate projections and what that will look like for impacts on our municipal operations. So today I'm looking for comments and feedback from council to be integrated into the draft plan. Thank you, and I'll stop sharing my screen here.
Thank you so much for that, Corey, for that presentation. So I'll look to council and see if there's any questions or comments and feedback that we want to give back to the county. First off, we'll start with Councillor Clark.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. On this, Corey, I guess I got two items. I guess one is will a risk assessment then be part of any kind of planning process going forward? Risk assessment, risk management is quite prevalent in large industries, and there's significant certifications, qualification that goes with that. But that, given what's happening and the impact on our government infrastructure, it's probably important that we have that kind of thing in place. The other is in terms of implications on the building code. And what I'm thinking there is what we saw a number of years back with Minden and a lot of the housing that was down along the floodplain. A couple of the areas there, they had started upgrading the standards for the building code for flood-prone areas. And what we saw as a result of that is a number of houses had sustained substantial damage as a result of flood, where others that have been built to code, they took a boat to it and got off on the deck, and there was no damage to the house. So there's big implications on doing things right. So I'm just putting forward that those two pieces should be for your consideration on this going forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Clark. Anyone else? Councillor Smith next, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for the report, Corey. Just, you know, in your goals there, you had 4, you know, high level or generic goals, as I think you described them. I wondered about ensuring there's an ongoing focus on mitigation opportunities and whether, you know, that as a priority in terms of whenever we're making a decision that, you know, seeking opportunities to mitigate climate change ought to be, you know, front and center. And I noted several of the goals that, sorry, not the goals, but several of the actions that you got onto later in your report, you know, would help with mitigation. You didn't have goals where, you know, and most people kind of look at that front end, you know, as kind of the key area for direction. And though, you know, would it make sense to incorporate mitigation as a standalone goal or as part of one of the 4 goals we've got in play right now?
Yep. So if I may, through you, Mayor, for our corporate planning, we did separate mitigation and adaptation plans. But as you noted, there's a lot of synergies between mitigation and adaptation. So we tried to note those within this plan. For our community plan, it will address both mitigation and adaptation so that we can build upon those synergies. But when we speak about things like incorporating a climate change lens on staff reports to council, that would be for both meeting our mitigation goals as well as our adaptation goals. So making sure that they're both prioritized.
Okay, did you want to further, Councillor Smith?
Well, I understand the semantics of it, but if you're looking at you know, this opportunity here from an adaptation point of view, I guess I'm just advocating for an approach that keeps mitigation front and center in everything we do. And you know, it's as simple as that. We need to recognize. We all need to recognize that yes, climate change is happening. It's unfortunately, it's inevitable to some degree. And, you know, we can point to faraway lands and say they need to do more, and they do. But, you know, with each of our decisions, I hope that we're looking for, you know, for those opportunities and keeping front and center in our minds that we have a part, even if it's a small part. And it's as simple as that to me. I think, and as I said, I think there are opportunities for us to do more. And the best way is to make sure that everybody sees that. The goal here is, yeah, I got to do something about mitigation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. It reminds me of, you know, when we're all just starting to even way back, think about the environment in terms of recycling, and the 3 R's was the reduce, you know, reuse, recycle. But the first word is reduce, and the first thing is mitigate. And a really good example we're going to see in our remuneration later today, and also at the county, mileage is practically non-existent in 2021 because we are doing meetings like this. So I think this was what we had to do because of COVID, but then on a go forward base, should we be doing a hybrid model all the time so that we aren't, you know, those are real things. And that goes back to the first priority is to mitigate. That's I would say not the easiest, but it's you know, it certainly should be a priority. So and I think that's captured. I'm not sure if there would be any change particularly to that, but I'm going to look. I think I saw Deputy Mayor Kennedy want to speak. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. And again, Corey, it's a good report. We were briefed on this at County Council. The comment I made there, and I just want to say it again, is the communication with our community emergency management coordinators, both at the county and the local levels. And I'm not sure the process of communicating from the upper tier to the lower tiers, but just to ensure that that communication is open, because this is pure emergency management 101. So thank you. Good report.
Okay, good. And good comments there, certainly with like extreme weather events, and you know, they become emergency events sometimes, unfortunately. So okay, good for that. Okay, so Corey, you've been able to capture that. I do have a resolution to move things along. Just looking at the time, we're a bit behind for those other delegations waiting to chime in. So I'll look for a mover and a seconder, please, on this report. If I could, Councillor Clark and Deputy Mayor Kennedy. Be it resolved that the Council for the Municipality of Dysart et al. Receives the delegation as presented by Corey McKay, Climate Change Coordinator for the County of Halliburton, with the draft Corporate Climate Change Adaptation Plan, and further that Council for the Municipality of Dysart et al. Provide feedback and suggestions for the incorporation in the final draft Corporate Climate Change Adaptation Plan to be adopted by Halliburton County Council and the local municipalities. All in favor? Okay, and that's carried. Thank you, and thank you very much, Corey.
Thank you.
Okay, so I will ask staff to bring in our next delegation, which is Craig Boker, President of Adventure Halliburton, and Councillor Donaldson can, yeah, thank you. I'll just wait to see Craig coming in. Good morning, Craig. Sorry for the delay. There you go. You got your screen on. You just need to go on mute, and I'm going to turn it over to you for your presentation.
Good morning.
Great. Good morning.
Thanks for including me this morning. If I fumble through this presentation, it's just because I could be a bit of a Luddite. And for those of you who don't know what Luddite is, computer illiterate. But I'll see how I do here. Yes, I'm the president of the Adventure Halliburton Group. I have a short PowerPoint presentation to present to you. I guess you've already received some background information on the presentation. There have been a few edits to this, which basically include some new images. So I'm just trying to get this screen to share here, but it doesn't seem to want to do it. Here we are. All good? Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. All right. So for those of you who don't know background about the Adventure Halliburton Group, the Adventure Halliburton Group has been in existence for many years. We were founded in 2009 with 5 partners. We've currently reached a collaboration of 22 partners, which includes 8 outdoor adventure experience providers, and then a blend of local government and accommodators and culinary partners, which incidentally include the county tourism department. We were incorporated as a not-for-profit marketing cooperative several years ago, known as Adventure Halliburton Group Cooperative, Inc. We offer a wide variety of unique experiences that appeal to all ages and interests all year round. We also do our best to promote the activities in our community and foster healthy lifestyles, as well as helping build our local economy. Our members strive to build and promote the Adventure Halliburton brand, as well as the My Halliburton Highlands brand as well. We market ourselves as the best day trip experiences in Ontario, and I don't think anybody would dispute that. This is a list of our adventure partners, which certainly include my own business, which is Ski Amazing Water Sports School and Parasailing, located at the Bonnie View Inn. And then the other organizations, I know you know how to read, so I won't do that for you. We also have a large grouping of accommodators, and we are embracing the culinary sector more now since the restrictions from COVID have lifted, and it makes their membership in our organization more affordable. Basically, what we're asking of council today is to consider a social media backboard sign to be erected in the Head Lake Park area. So we're setting out to create an attractive social media backboard to inspire people to take selfies with adventurous images showcasing the memorable activities that we have to offer here. This is not a brand new concept. It is a concept that is actually becoming more popular and is growing. And the size of the sign that we're proposing is 4 foot by 8 foot, horizontally mounted, with actually some facial cutouts. That is also not a new concept, but it's something for people to play with while they stand behind the board and take a series of photos with either family or friends that are with them. So the location that we have speculated with my conversation with Andrea Mueller and Pat Kennedy much earlier in the month is at or near the new Welcome Center at Head Lake Park, using the lake as a background on the periphery. And it's very close to the current shoreline entrance to where the snowmobile parking area is, just so everybody's familiar with that. The billboard may include content of various images, which I have a couple of renderings for you to see, and also the My Halliburton Highlands brands, Adventure Halliburton, Dies Art, if so choose, and various logos, web addresses, icons, that sort of thing. The goal here is really to inspire people to take pictures of this social media backboard and share and tag us in their various platforms that they use, helping to increase awareness of all the things that are available to do in Halliburton County, but also ultimately to promote the community and enhance the tourism economic benefits for all of us. The sign will also include our QR code to scan. And this is a recently launched initiative that we got off the ground with a soft launch in July. And you may know it as Driftscape, which is a free mobile app that we just created. On screen, you'll see a bar graph of views that we have received with the launch of this new app. And many of Dies Art's local attractions are the highest ranking viewpoints for this app, such as the Sculpture Forest, the Welcome Center, the Rails End Gallery, the Halliburton Outdoors Association, Highlands East Visitors Info Center, and the museum, and so on. Like, it's actually getting a lot of really good traction, and we're very happy with that. So this sign is a way of trying to increase the views as well. The screens on a shot on site here is actually a photo I took about a week ago. And this is actually standing just opposite the new Welcome Center. There's a couple of small posts in place there, but ideally situating it somewhere in that area that's conducive to the bylaw. Also with a lot of advisement from staff or council on what they think is a mutually agreeable place that would be, of course, needed. I've read the bylaw, and the sign definition would be a freestanding sign, envisioned as 2 6x6 posts spaced apart, and certainly reusable for any application if need be. We've made a couple of renderings of the sign here. So this is the first rendering. It shows the sign with facial cutouts. It's representing not all of our activities, because we can't get it all on a 4x8. If it was an 8x8, we could probably do that. But we're thinking about starting small, and we think this is a suitable size. So it has our QR code, your portal to adventuring into the Highlands. And we've got mountain bike, horseback, the walk in the clouds, the kayaking, and also parasailing with a little bit of self-interest there, and the various logos and icons below. I'm really wondering if the next one is the one you guys might like better. How do you feel about it? So this could be your name in headlights, in lights. So there it is. So this is the idea, is that people would personalize it and take pictures and share it with their family and friends. So on a contribution level, Adventure Halliburton wants to provide the creation, the materials, and the installation for the sign itself seasonal representation because we have our winter stakeholders and we have our summer, spring, fall. So we would change that out as the seasons rotate to winter. We're asking of the municipality to provide the materials and the installation of the signposts in a mutually agreeable location and to waive the application and permit fee. So in summation, we really want to work with you. We've always felt that Dysart's been very supportive of tourism and these type of initiatives in the community. We want to work together to promote our experiences, and we want to help traveling consumers create memories and better experiences while they're here and to record them. So I'm open to any questions.
Okay, thank you so much, Craig. And I think you're trying to butter a couple of people up right there, I would say. Oh, so if you don't mind unsharing your screen, and then we'll be able to view all of council again. Just wait till you're able to do that. Okay, so we need to unshare the screen. I believe it's on the bottom.
On here. I can't seem to expand.
I can help you out. Mallory, are you able to
I'm trying to
Craig
expand
through
it.
that?
Resume share? No.
Is there an end share?
There should be. It's often I think it's a red button, but let me look it up for you here.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Well,
it
you're doing
takes over your screen when you start sharing it, so it's
here
hard.
we go. Stop share. Got
There
it.
you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
I thought so. Okay.
Thank you.
And you may want to just click your camera back on. There you go. Okay, so I'm going to open it up to the floor for questions or comments about this proposal. And Councillor Clark will be first. Go ahead.
Yeah, interesting, Craig. Thank you very much for that presentation. Anything that promotes our local amenities and assets is great. Just one comment for consideration, I guess, when you're dealing with staff, you're going to have a bit of competition between markets and festivals down there. So the positioning of your of the board, you may have to do some negotiating on. But yeah, it's a good concept. But that's a very prime area down there for the markets and festivals. So it'll have a good proximity, but also that'll also leads to some competition in terms of the positioning of it. So
certainly.
good luck.
Yeah. Well, I've been a vendor down there before, so I understand your point there for sure.
I think ultimately it would be staff. If we go ahead with this, staff will determine the location. So hopefully won't interfere with anything else. Are there any questions or comments? People are in favor of this, not in favor? Councillor Smith, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think on the surface, this makes a lot of sense. It could be an asset for those that are visiting Head Lake Park to be able to see some of the other types of adventures and activities that are available in Dysart and even beyond. I was curious, Craig. I don't know if you have any idea of the degree of acceptance, the popularity of the Driftscape app, as to how many people will have downloaded that app, and about the population. I viewed your presentation from which we received last Thursday to download the app myself, and up here at Canisius Lake, I expected to be told that Halliburton Forest was a nearby activity, and it wasn't there. In other words, it didn't pop up as one of the things that I might want to do. So I'm kind of curious, is it still in its early stages in terms of adoption and being populated by the various local businesses?
Well, it's an evolution, that's for sure. If you didn't see Halliburton Forest, that's surprising to me because they're one of our founding partners. We wouldn't eliminate them, but I'll look into that. The Driftscape app's popularity is 38,000 downloads Canada-wide, 10,000 Ontario-wide, and our downloads at this point is around 880, which we find to be quite good, simply since it really didn't get released until August in its full form. So we are in the process right now of actually gamifying that app. So that means that people will be able to, with the gamify concept, make it like a treasure hunt kind of thing where you go from stop to stop to stop to visit all the different adventure providers. So the adoption is good. And of course, the technical side of it is always out of our hands. We just tell people to do it and they click the buttons, and sometimes the button gets missed. So it's probable. But that's a great question. Thank you.
Yeah, I was surprised, Councillor Smith, when you said about Halliburton Forest, because we had a presentation at County Council about Driftscape, and I think they were front and center. So anyway, we'll look into that. My only concern is like, okay, Mallory, can I just finish my question, or it just is the material that the sign's made out of, that it is extremely durable for weather and use and abuse, if you know what I mean. So I'm not sure if it was in the presentation of what the quality of the product would be like. There's actually a couple down there, and I don't know if anyone's seen them, but they're meant for your dogs. They're from the other company that has put those games, the outdoor type of table games that are down in Head Lake Park. And but I've seen little kids go down and put their faces in the little woof. I don't know if you guys have seen them. They're in that actual similar area. So just about the materials, that they are lasting and that they can handle the weather. So Craig, answer, and then Mallory, you've got something.
Happy you brought that up. I did address this. Chris Youngdale has actually done a lot of work with these types of signs, and that's Vista Signs, his company. In fact, he's actually shipped hundreds of them to the US. It seems to be a niche for him. So he's making these cutout signs out of a poly product, almost like a plastic. Originally, I went to him thinking we need something aluminum and light, but strong. And then, the rough edges of the cutout would have been a concern with aluminum because of a sharp edge. So he said, no, we actually use this poly product, which is kind of like a rounded plastic backing. So I think we're in the right realm of the right product for what we need for the durability and the safety aspect as well. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mallory.
I just wanted to point out we have a resolution in place, but there are two things that we need to address.
Yep.
One is the request to waive the sign permit fee, and the other is to direct staff to provide resources and labor to install the sign. So those are two decisions before we move along that council needs to consider. And
yes, I didn't see it in there because the resolution just says to apply for sign permit, and I saw it. So a sign permit is $50. So I'll deal. Tamara, did you want to comment on that before I ask council?
Yeah, I was just going to say I could speak to the staffing and the sign.
Okay, you speak to the staffing. Yeah.
I confirmed with the director of Parks and Rec, and the out-of-pocket cost would be about $250 for the installation plus staff time. So if council's fine with that, staff can do the installation if they want to go ahead with the sign.
Okay, and that, like I say, the permit fee is $50. The sign committee meets this week, but they do meet on an ad hoc basis, so they could meet again. Mallory?
I believe the sign permit itself is 15 unless you need an exemption.
Oh, thank you.
So 50 if you're not following the bylaw and you're asking for an exemption, but I don't know that this is the case in this.
Oh, so $15 it likely is, because it's not, that's right, it was 50 if it's an exemption.
Exactly.
Which so then it wouldn't even need to go to the committee if it meets the bylaw. That's right. It's only the committee.
It would depend how the application goes through. So
okay, it could be 15 or it could be 50.
Yeah, right now you'd be waiving the 15 rather than the 50. Yeah.
The permit fee. Okay, so is council on board with those costs, and those two things will include them in the resolution? I think there's support to give this a try, give it a go, and other people can stick their mugs in there and you'll be able to hopefully track with the hashtags and do some social media tracking on if that's been popular. And certainly our staff down at the Welcome Center, even though they're inside, they might, be able to track and see, if people are using that and having fun with it.
Yeah.
Mallory, oh, great. Can you add to that? I'm going to look for a mover and a seconder, and if we can just add to that, because it currently just says to apply for.
I'll read the bylaw. Yeah.
All right, I will look for a mover and a seconder then, which is Deputy Mayor Kennedy and seconded by Councillor Smith. And I'll get you to read.
Be it resolved that council acknowledges receipt of the delegation from Craig Boker of the Halliburton Adventure Group requesting permission to place a social media blackboard in or around Head Lake Park. And further that council directs Adventure Halliburton Group to apply for a sign permit as per Desert Sign Bylaw 2007-90 as amended. And further, should the sign permit be approved, council authorizes Adventure Halliburton Group to place a sign on municipal property in a location approved by staff. And further that council directs the sign permit fee be waived. And further that council directs staff to provide resources and labor to install the sign.
Okay, you've heard the resolution. All in favor? All right, great. That carries. Okay, good luck, Craig.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for that proposal. So Councillor Donaldson can come back in the meeting and be on screen. This is my time to recuse myself. So I'm going to turn my screen and mic off, turn it over to Deputy Mayor Kennedy to bring in the next delegation. And what I'm going to suggest is that after this delegation, we take a short 15 or 10-minute break, whichever Deputy Mayor Kennedy, it'll be in your hands of what the break and what the time back is. And I just ask if somebody could send me a text that we're back before we go live. Does that sound good? I'm expecting, this will be about 15, 20 minutes. Okay, so bye for now.
Okay, thanks, boss. I'll try and do you proud here. Want to welcome Heather, Irv, and I think Mike's on here too. Yeah, from the Rotary Club. Exciting concept. So waiting with bated breath here to hear your presentation and moving forward. So take it away. Not sure who's got the lead on it, but go ahead.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Pat. I am Heather Phillips. I'm the president of the Rotary Club. And today with me, I have Mike Landry, who is also a Rotarian and the project administrator, and Irv Handler, who is our project champion. So Irv and Mike are going to take it away with the presentation.
You're on mute, Irv. You're still muted.
Hello, how's that?
That's it. Yeah.
Good. Hello, I'm Irv Handler. Thank you very much for allowing us to present here today. So as you're probably aware, Halliburton Rotary does undertake an annual project for the betterment of our community. Past projects have included the town clock, the band shell, the historic train, and of course, last year's visitor center. This year, we hope to install a state-of-the-art bike share program. The program is intended to promote public health by encouraging free outdoor activity and also enhance Halliburton's reputation as a premier tourist destination. The program itself consists of 6 bicycles, which are specially constructed to be both durable and allow the bikes to be stored outside. It comes with a high-tech racking system and electronic locks that are solar powered. People who want to use the bicycles can unlock them with a smartphone. They sign an electronic waiver for insurance purposes and provide a credit card for security purposes. They then get to ride the bike for free for 3 hours and return it. Our software that controls the program ensures that people cannot unlock the bicycles at night. So it's for daytime use only. And we think that the best placement for this will be next to the new visitor center. Andrea Mueller is supportive of this project and the placement, and she agrees that people who do need help with the bicycles can go into the visitor center, and the staff there would be happy to help them. Both Bobcaygeon and Fenelon Falls have this type of program. In fact, they use the same supplier that we're going to use. They're very happy with the program. It works very well there. And they say that the number one question that people have is, where do they ride the bikes? In our case, we anticipate that people will be riding the bikes primarily on the rail trail. Ongoing expenses are mainly insurance and keeping the bikes in good repair. We are right now negotiating with the insurance company, but we think that Rotary has more than enough financial resources to pay for the annual insurance premium. And the repairs of the bikes, we've been negotiating with Algonquin Outfitters. They have agreed to keep the bikes in good repair in exchange for being the exclusive sponsor of the program. We will be putting the Algonquin Outfitters logo on the bicycles along with Rotary, our Rotary logo. There'll be signage with regards to rules and regulations at the site of the bicycles, and we will also have a dock box, a locked dock box with helmets for people to use to ensure their safety. The program is expandable. If it's a big success, we can add more bicycles and even more stations. That really, I don't want to reiterate everything that was in our written presentation, but we are happy to answer any questions that you may have about this program.
Okay, thanks, Irv. Any comments from council? Questions? Go ahead, Councillor Clark.
It's for you, Deputy Mayor. Interesting, Irv. I think this is very much needed in the community, and as your objectives are is to get people out and about and enjoy the air and get some good exercise. A couple of comments are one is if in discussion with the park staff, try and position in such a way that you're going to be able to have some security to the camera systems through our security systems, just to make sure that you haven't got problems going forward. The other is as you had identified is where to ride the bike, and it would be in consultation with park staff. It'd be nice to have a little map that outlines appropriate areas in the community where to ride the bicycle. You say the rail trail is a big part, but you'll also probably see them riding up towards Park Street and a couple of other areas. But anything to get out and use the air is good. But anyways, congratulations, great concept. Thank you.
Thank you. With regards to the camera and security, so Mike is a former, a retired OPP officer, and not only will he be the administrator of the program, but he's also in charge of security. Mike, do you want to talk about cameras and security?
Well, yes, we've looked at adding a camera to the Welcome Center on the roof of the Welcome Center to direct it at the area. And the area we're thinking that would be ideal is next to the existing electric vehicle charging station towards the Welcome Center itself. It's ideal for visibility for, people driving up and down the road. It's visible. It's just a good location. Also for charging the actual locks itself on the bikes. There's good exposure to the sun there. And it would just fit well there. We would have to install a cement pad and then have the racks that the bicycles go into installed into that cement pad. Other than that, we also looked at, we'll probably store them in the off season in the township garage, or not the garage itself, but where we have our shipping container down in the yard. And I think there's some, there's some security there as well. There's outdoor cameras at the township garage, I believe, as far as I know. And plus with staff going in and out, we would have a bit of security in the off season. And that shipping container is very secure anyway. So I don't think it would be an issue. When Steve Roberts and I met with the gentleman down in Fenelon Falls, who's the administrator, we spoke to him specifically about vandalism. And in the 3 years that they've been in operation, they've only had one incident where someone tried to steal one of the bicycles and they damaged the lock. So that was something that had to be replaced. But that's about all the issues they've had. They're also in a very visible location right down by the waterfront there, across from Fenelon Falls Brewing. So, and our sponsorship agreement, did you want me to mention that too, Irv?
Yeah, please do.
We finalized that. I went in yesterday to AO, and I've been emailing back and forth with the manager. And they have signed our agreement. We've answered all their questions. They're very happy to be our partner in this. And they're very happy with the maintenance agreement, and they're going to allot time for their mechanic to work on the bikes on a weekly basis if required. There is very little maintenance required in these bikes anyway. So that's been signed. I just have to get a copy and sign it myself and leave one with them, and we're done there. The insurance, I'm still waiting for the final answer from them.
And I'd also like to just add there, if I may, for the funds for the purchase of the bikes. As you know, we're kind of restricted on where we can spend our funding. Our car draw does bring in a lot of money, which is under the municipal license. So we would need special permission from council to be able to use those lottery funds for the bike purchase, because the bike platform would be going on municipal property. So we would need special consideration for that with the licensing as well.
Thank you. Just before Councillor Smith, I see you have a question, but Tamara had her hand up. I just comment from her, and then maybe Mallory, especially on that last point. Thank you.
Okay, just on the cameras, we have a video surveillance policy, so we have to, that's in place through the county, so we have to follow that. So we can't just let anybody put up a camera and monitor it separately. It's got to be done through our IT department. And so we'd have to get that probably costed out and maybe charged back or something. In terms of the credit card access, and this was a question I had when we first saw the presentation, just to address those that might not have a credit card for whatever reason, is there any kind of workaround, whether it's staff being able to help out with the transaction somehow, or just so that it's accessible to everyone regardless of that status? Or like if there was a welcome center staff, or I don't know, just trying to think if there's some way to address that. And is the rentals only meant for people over 18, or is it a certain age group?
It is meant for people over 18. And when they sign the waiver, they will swear that they are over 18. Of course, there's no way for us to monitor that, but that is for insurance purposes. With regards to the credit card, we're going to talk to the supplier about whether a debit card could also be used as a security deposit. The security deposit is completely optional on our part, but we feel that at least initially that we do want that as that extra level of protection. At the moment, we don't have a workaround for people who do not have a credit card. The other big advantage of the credit card, it's going to prevent kids from taking the bikes as well, which we think is important because that's a, you know, an inducement and a safety issue, and kids being what they are, they could easily get into trouble with free access to a bicycle.
Okay. Supplementary, Tim?
No, I think that's it for the moment.
Okay, Mallory, you had a comment?
Yeah, I was just going to comment on the lottery license. So we don't foresee a problem with using it because it is a community, you know, it benefits the community. But what we've just done is, because a lottery license officer in our office will approve it, we've kind of had a pre-conversation with them though. We've just put in the resolution that we're directing Rotary Club to apply license in order to fund the project, and that we're going to approve that if all goes well, that it can be installed on our property. So that's kind of the way the resolution's written, just so you guys understand that. And Deputy Mayor Kennedy, I'll read that when we get to it because you don't have a copy of it. So just so you know.
Thanks, Mallory. Councillor Smith, you have a question?
Yeah, thank you. I think it's actually been covered off. So Tamara, the report, you know, from the Rotary Club suggested that they were going to install a video camera, and given our policy, that's not going to work out in a public facility. So you've got an approach in mind that would have us utilize a new video camera focused on these bikes, and the same policy in terms of it would only be accessed if there was an incident, a bike went missing or something like that, some vandalism. And the video record would only be kept for, I think it's a week, and you know, and so forth. So you will do that and maintain that consistent with our policy. That was a question I wanted to ask about. And other than that, I think this is you know, a terrific, tremendous Rotary Club on its initiative. And you know, from my point of view, it's a tremendous use. I know you ran into trouble with the visitor center in your lottery funds, but I think the car lottery is a great use of that fund, and so you know, well done. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Smith. Yeah, and I echo those comments. The only questions I had was on the insurance. Is there a clause in there to indemnify the municipality, and does it meet our current 5 million minimum standard? Just heads up on that one. I'm not sure where you're at with the insurance. The other point I wanted to make was perhaps we need to talk to staff about the location. We're impinging, you know, reducing some more parking spots down there, and maybe we might have to start looking at an alternate space down there. Just as this visitor center seems to attract more attention and more focus, I think we need to take a little longer term look at what congestion, that kind of thing down there. I'm certainly supportive of the concept and the program, and thank Rotary very much. But just going forward, those are a couple of points I just wanted to make with everyone. Any other questions for anyone? If not, Mallory, I get you to read the resolution.
So be resolved that council acknowledges receipt of delegation from representatives of the Rotary Club of Halliburton regarding an automated bike share system in Halliburton. And further, that council directs the Rotary Club of Halliburton to apply for a lottery license to confirm funding eligibility for this project. And further, that council approves the placement of a free automated 6-bicycle bike share system near the Welcome Center, and directs staff to work with the Rotary Club to determine a suitable location.
Excellent. Well done.
Mover and a seconder. Yeah.
You're a great wordsmith. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Smith and Councillor Clark. Thank you. You've heard the resolution. All in favor? Okay, thank you, and congratulations, and thank you very much to the Rotary Club for another great community initiative. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that concludes my portion. So the instructions I had from the boss were we'll take a 15-minute break and reconvene at 10:45. Okay, thank you very much, and we'll turn your screens off.
Hello, everybody. Just looking at the time, thinking we should put our screens back on. We got lots to cover. Nancy, you were asking earlier, is Nancy back on? She was having trouble in the meeting and I asked her with connecting to see. I know our delegation is at 2 p.m. Is that correct, Mallory? So we'll be at least till then. That'll be our last thing, I'm hoping.
Andrea, I think we're coming back at 10:50, correct?
Oh, I thought he said 10:45.
Okay.
But am I
Sorry,
right?
I'll start the recording and that'll give us a couple minutes.
Well, I need other counselors on. Pat, was it 10:45?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
10:45. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, get with it, Lori. I still need to see Nancy and Walt. There we go. But Nancy was having trouble. Nancy, can you hear and see okay? We can see you. Yeah, okay.
We are live.
Okay, thank you. So we're back from our break and we'll go back into the regular portion of the meeting, which is reports and recommendations from local agencies, boards, and committees. And while we don't have minutes from these things, I am going to look to each councillor who represents them. So I'll start with Councillor Donaldson for the Harcourt Community Hall Board.
We didn't have a hall board meeting per se, but we did have the ladies committee meeting that Andrea and I attended, Andrea Mueller. And I don't know if you want me to, we were just updating since the board hadn't met since November. And we just need to do a few changes going forward, and it's still in discussion on what we can do there with the recreation. There is a need for the recreation group, so we just haven't got it finalized yet.
Okay, so now that COVID's hardly over, but we're certainly in completely different regulations. And so hopefully it'd be nice to see that facility be used more fully this summer and into the spring for, I don't know if there's ever going to do the bingos again. That was always one of the big things. So hopefully at our next council meeting, you'll be able to report a little bit more what's happening in Harcourt. West Guildford Hall Board, Councillor Smith.
Thank you. There was no meeting. We had no meeting in February. We will be meeting again later this month. And in terms of activities, the pickleball is continuing at this point. We also have had a individual from the community is made an application to sell pies out of our parking lot on the Victoria Day weekend to raise funds for the Abbey Gardens. And so I'm sure that'll get discussed and approved next week. But this is something that was done once last year also, and it was a great success. So we'll have more details on that in the days and weeks to come. Not till, as I said, Day weekend. We might also ask if there's any update from staff in terms of the outdoor recreation facilities, in terms of the the planning to follow through on the funding announcement for that. And that'd be all for right now. Thank you.
I don't know, Tamara, do you have an update on that or? Okay.
There's not really any update yet. We've got costs, and until the spring thaw comes, we can't really do too much more with it. We have made a couple of requests for adjusted project parameters because we did come in under budget. So we're waiting to hear back from Trillium on that, and we can report back more when we hear. But it's a slow process to hear about adjustments. Now you have to go through a formal portal and wait your turn, and there's no phone calls.
I guess I was just more curious if there's any anything you need from the volunteer committee members at the recreation center.
At this point, no, but I will review with staff and get back to you, John, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's great. Just keep those lines of communication open. There may be an opportunity even, for some support or help there. The same goes for it at Harcourt. On that, anything else, Councillor Smith? Nope.
Not with respect to West Guildford. When we get further down, there was a meeting of Upper Trent yesterday. So.
Okay, so then I'll just go to Councillor Clark for the Rails End report.
Yeah, we had our first in-person meeting last week. There are concerns about COVID still being in the community, so we all masked, just to be safe, and we expect to continue that way for at least a couple of months. The planning and that for the Arts and Crafts Festival, per the report, is moving forward. We're expecting it to be a little smaller than it has been in other years, but that's okay, given that we've got some uncertainties about what the health requirements and protocols are going to be this summer. So that's all moving forward quite well. The Look, Talk, Make program that they're doing for some of the long-term and sheltered people or sheltered seniors is moving forward, and that's doing quite well. And they're doing a little bit of a program review for the 2022 season again, given the letting up on some aspects of the health protocols and seeing what can be safely done. Given that we've got a lot of seniors involved in our programming. So anyway, so that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, and great that you were able to meet in person. That's kind of nice. I mean, I'm always a big fan of the Art and Craft Festival, and I'm not just a fan, I'm a big shopper. But I've always found the most unique things there, and even if it is a little bit smaller, I'm sure it's going to be well attended for sure. Also, the Look, Talk, Make, I think that's just such a fabulous partnership to go into the long-term care facilities and do stuff like that. Faye Wilkinson has a gift, and I think people. Well, I certainly don't think I'm very artistic. However, there is a little bit of art in everybody, and it's extremely relaxing and therapeutic to be able to do that. So that's just a great program. Nice to see. Questions or comments before I receive the report? Tamara, go ahead.
I was just going to make note that the grant we applied for in collaboration with the Rails End and the BIA, we weren't successful. They did say that they were basically 3 times overprescribed for the funds they had available. But I still think it was a good exercise we went through because we identified some good opportunities should another grant come around. But council's already approved the concept, so we should be able to move more quickly next time.
Okay, thanks.
Give you the update in case anyone wonders why we're not doing these things.
Okay. Also, it says we thank Dicer for having it redone in 2022. We had the roof done in 2021. We had it done ahead, right? Yeah. So the roof was done. And the fact that they had to close, we had issues at the library. We had Corey McKay on earlier today talking about climate change. It affected all our buildings on York Street. And I think we need to be prepared for that a little bit in the future and preemptively, when it's -30 for more than 3 days in a row, it's probably a good idea to close. And we just got to make sure the pipes don't freeze and the building don't get damaged. But, I think in a way, having sort of some policies in place so you don't have to have panic decisions made in that moment. And hopefully that was a brutal January and February. So with that, I need a mover and a seconder to receive the report. Councillor Clark and Deputy Mayor Kennedy. Be it resolved that Council acknowledges receipt of the March 2022 Rails End Gallery and Arts Centre report. All in favor? Okay, carried. and Halliburton BIA, Councillor Wood Roberts.
Well, they had their yearly meeting in February. Luke is going to be stepping down at some point as head of the BIA, and everyone totally appreciates all the effort and the time that he has put in to really serve the community and to promote the BIA. Been a few changes downtown. Russell Red Records and Mixtape Vintage have kind of moved down into their own space now. So look forward to continued success for them. Planning, they've done their ordering for their flowers and stuff. And the next thing will be to get the snowflakes down and the banners up. So some of the restaurants have also, I think, are choosing to do the outdoor patios again, which hopefully will be successful. And that's about all I have for right now.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, we did approve that at our meeting. So, okay, that's great on BIA news. Harvest Halliburton, Councillor Clark.
We're working with ULinks on a bit of an evaluation on the state of farming and farmer markets. So nothing to report at this point in time, but there will be stuff coming forward.
Okay, and source protection planning.
Actually, we have a meeting on Thursday, the annual one that Dysart participates in. So looking forward to that, and I'll report back in April.
Okay, thank you for that. And then Councillor Smith is the Upper Trent.
Yeah, thank you. So the Upper Trent Water Management Council met yesterday afternoon, first meeting since last year, and the Coalition for Equitable Water Flow reviewed the performance for 2021 and sort of reminded us that it seems like a distant memory now as to how low our lakes were in the early part of last year until we had that rain in late June that sort of filled them up. And so although no one knows at this point, what's going to be the weather of the next couple of months, certainly there was, some signals yesterday that we could be facing a similar thing. It's unfortunately the reality of climate change is, we've had a little less snow this year than usual, and one of the problems, I don't understand all the science behind it, but we have a bigger problem with evaporation from the snow on the lakes these days than we used to have, and so that's a bit of concern. But we won't know until we see how much rain arrives in the spring. The Transcendent folks continue to introduce more automation and seem to be doing a better job of monitoring water levels at every point. They're using satellite and cellular technology and so forth in that respect. And right now, all of the dams in our area have their logs in, but several of them, Kinesis included, the water levels right now are lower than normal, and for this time of year. And we've had a lot of snow melt already, so we're retaining everything possible and doing what they can. The capital projects, the Transcendent folks have now invested $100 million, not all in Dysart, but most of it in Halliburton County in terms of storing dams. A couple that affect our lakes, the Red Pine Dam and the Drag Lake South dams are underway right now. Dredging was completed last fall on Red Pine and the Kinesis River to get there and so forth. But there's 2 years of work ahead to finish that construction. The Drag Lake South, that full dam replacement is well along, and they hope to finish it later this summer. Mesquabi, Long Lake, and Percy Lakes, those dams have had design work completed for replacements there, but they haven't got funding yet. So exactly when those will happen is going to be depending on funding from the federal government. There is a new draft of the Transcendent Waterway Management Plan that will become public in the month of April. And there'll be a process, including public meetings over the course of the year, and leading to finalizing that report. And it'll have to be tabled in Parliament before the end of 2022. So we can expect a notice of some type of virtual town hall meetings for the public to participate in, later this summer and fall. The Coalition for Equitable Water Flow is also doing some work to help educate property owners in terms of what they can do to protect, their property, their assets, if you like, whether it's docks and so forth, from the risks that are going to be increasing going forward with climate change. And they expect to produce a video that will talk about some of the impacts of climate change and steps owners can take. They're going to be putting together a pamphlet to kind of spread the message and looking for ways to get the information out there. They've have an application with HCDC to additional funding to support this, and they've got Tammy Ray from Sticks and Stones engaged to make sure that it's a first-class production. So that should be a real help in terms of property owners. It's discouraging to note, but the number one cause of property damage across Canada is flooding, and we can only expect more of that given the extreme weather events that are a reality of climate change. So that was the essence of the meeting. We're going to have another meeting in about 6 weeks to try and map out a role for this council going forward. Get a focus not only on just the water levels and flood protections, but also to get some emphasis on what we can do to get folk more engaged in terms of preserving water quality. So that's my report from the meeting yesterday. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that very detailed report, actually. And I just had a quick question, which is regarding the public comment process. Once that plan comes out, you said in April. So is that for individual public members, or will that be actually coming to council for council comment, like collective comment?
No, as I understand it, there will be public meetings, and the public will have a chance, like associations, councils, obviously, but it'll be a broad-based consultation as they work to finalize that report.
Yeah, so I understood. So individuals.
And there was a public meeting, again done virtually, and not particularly well promoted in Halliburton, but a year ago on that topic, and they say now that they've got a draft. They'll do a better job of promoting the next one, and maybe even have more than one in our area.
Okay, well, keep us posted on that.
Yep.
Thank you. And there's nothing to receive there, though, just verbal comment, and nothing from Halliburton Village Bioenergy. So we will move into the section 5, recommendation from the Committee of the Whole. Recommendations are there. I'll look for a mover and a seconder, if I could. Deputy Mayor Kennedy, and seconded by Councillor Wood Roberts. Be it resolved that the recommendations from the March 8th, 2022 meeting of the Dysart et al. Committee of the Whole be adopted by Council. All in favor? Okay, carried. And next we move into Public Works. We're bringing any staff in, or it's just the bylaw? No, I didn't think so. Okay, so it's just the bylaw. We talked about this at the Committee of a Whole, so it's just to work together with the lower tiers. Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Smith. Be resolved that bylaw 2022-26 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a household hazardous waste inter-municipal agreement with the County of Halliburton lower tier municipalities effective April 1st, 2022, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and the corporate seal attached here too. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. We'll move into finance. These are just a bylaw. The first one is that goes with our tax roll. Barbara, if there's anything you want to speak to this at all?
Well, it's just basically confirming the new rates for the sewage communal services. And so we've gone through the advertisement, the public notice, and now we're actually going to implement the new rates for the ERU at $690 a year. And then the metered rate is $34.66 per 1,000 gallons. And yeah, the ERU will take place starting January 1, and the metered rates will start April 1st of this year.
Okay, thank you. It was a significant jump, but we did follow our asset management plan, and it just goes to show we need to get some more users on the system. More users on the system can will help alleviate some of these huge, larger increases. Councillor Clark.
To you, Madam Mayor. Barb, when was the last time there was an increase on the RU?
2019.
Okay, so yeah, so we're in what, about 3 years? Okay, thanks. And some of the, yeah, exactly as you said, some of this money goes towards the infrastructure needed. And we, for the community to grow and to be environmentally responsible, this is an important thing. So yeah, by all means, this looks good. Thank you.
Yeah, I would say the ERU fee is mainly operational year over year. Then, we get the too much capital, mainly just what it costs to run a sewer plant. But Councillor Smith.
Yes, thank you. And I have a question for Barbara. I noted in point number 9 of the bylaw, there's the fee for hauled sewage and holding tanks privies, and should be 15 cents a gallon. That's the same as it was before, is it not?
Correct.
And what's the rationale for that not changing? How much revenue do we get out of that? Is there much of that, or is it just minuscule?
Yeah, there's not really much activity.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so mover seconder, please. Councillor Clark, and seconded by Councillor McKechnie. Be it resolved that bylaw 2022-25, being a bylaw to impose fees and charges for the provision of communal sewage services, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signing the corporate seal attached hereto. All in favor? Okay, carries. And next we have council remuneration for the year, which is something that we have to do. I don't know, Mallory, it's pretty straightforward. Is there anything?
Yeah, if I may speak.
Or, sorry, Barbara.
So this is in compliance with the Municipal Act in section 284(1). And basically, the treasurer of the municipality shall in each year on or before March 31st provide to council of the municipality an itemized statement on remuneration and expenses paid in the previous year. So total disbursements were just over $171,000, of which $169,000 was paid to council, and the $2,000 was paid to public committee members.
So there we go. That's there for our public information. So I'll need a mover and a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Kennedy, and seconded by Councillor Wood Roberts. As noted, the mileage is practically nil. Be it resolved that council acknowledges receipt of the 2021 council and committee remuneration report. All in favor? Okay, carried. And next we'll go into administration section. And the first item we have up is a letter from Gardens and some residents there, and we do not have Public Works on the screen to comment to it, but it is in our 2022 work plan and budget. So while we appreciate this and things are a little bit slower, unfortunately it wasn't done last summer, but it will be done this summer. Now in terms of the crosswalk, I don't know if it meets the guidelines for a crosswalk. We will be adding sidewalks. Crosswalk signage and mirrors to see around the corner. I'm not sure where mirrors come in or if staff want to look at this and report back at committee of the whole. For now, we'll just receive it and we'll make sure that if Rob can comment to this letter, I have no idea where mirrors would be. I do know that the gardens, which was one of their requirements, they had to pay for and have a range installed a flashing light. So as you're driving on 118 and you're coming towards town, there's a flashing light with a symbol of a pedestrian. It's so far back, by the time you get to the corner, it's like, I don't understand the location of it, but that they did do their requirement. They followed through on the things that they needed to do. So if we can just ask Rob to speak to this at committee of the whole. All right, so I'll move in seconder, please, for this. Councillor McKechnie, Councillor Clark. Be it resolved that council acknowledges receipt of the petition from Gardens of Halliburton residents, family and friends requesting the completion of the crosswalk signage and sidewalk at Highway 118 and number 1 Sunnyside. All in favor? Okay, carried. And second, we have, the county resolution. We've talked about this before. I don't know, Barbara, if you or Barbara, Mallory, if anyone wants to bring it up. We've talked about this MPAC freeze, and the county decided to put forward a resolution and get support from the local municipalities as well. Do either of you want to speak to it?
Yeah, I can. I mean, there's not, we're legislated, or MPAC is legislated by the government, and I have participated in some meetings with the MPAC, and yes, they have indicated that for the years of 22 and 23, we're still working off of the 2016 CVA. So right now, the way I see it, perhaps by 2024, we'll have a new assessment in place, but yeah. So a good thing to voice our concern about, what's happening out there economically in the real estate market, and also too, what opportunity are we missing out from the municipality perspective in terms of additional revenues?
Yes, when we set our budget, we set our budget as to what is needed. We do, we put forward just regular maintenance projects, etc. And then it gets distributed. But where there's sort of an inequity right now is, as an example, I'll just use my own home, has not been reevaluated for some time, but someone building a brand new house, which on the market might sell for less than mine, but I'm paying way less tax. It's more of an equitable and fair distribution of that, if I'm making sense with that, because it should be based on what your property value is. And I'm just going to be honest, there's a lot of people that it's way under, and yet the new builds would be more accurate. So, it'll be, we'll see. Anyway, the resolution is there, and a little bit of work for staff to write letters to our MPP, etc. Councillor Smith, did I see your hand? Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. I just had a question in the, and you would have discussed this at county, but it says, whereas the continued postponement of property valuation translates into a significant loss of taxation revenues for municipalities. I'm kind of wondering what the rationale for that is, because I agree with your point. I note that if, impact, obviously based on real estate values, homes that haven't been appraised since 2016, in 2022, they could be 40 or 50% more valuable. But just because the value of real estate all across our community has gone up by 50%, doesn't mean that our tax revenues are going to go up by 50%. Most owners would say, hey, I'm living in the same house, and you say it's worth more, that's fine, but you're not going to charge me any more taxes than you do based on the budget process that you outlined in your introductory comments there, Mayor. So what's the rationale for that particular statement in the county resolution?
Well, to tell you the truth, I'm not actually sure. I don't know that it would translate into or it's a loss of taxation. I find it's more of an equitable taxation is how I look at it. And I didn't write the resolution. I don't know, Deputy Mayor Kennedy, if you could speak to it.
It sort of goes against, I agree with Councilor Smith, because the intent in the conversation at county, as I recall, was that, there was some talk about increasing revenues, but as the discussion went on, it was no, it's going to be more equitable. And actually, if we need $100 and to run something, we're still going to need the $100, whether it's 5% or 3%, because of it's. So I question that too when I read this, the formal resolution, and I probably should have spoke up heavier at county council on that particular one, because I don't see it leading to a great increase in revenues myself, other than just the equalization, as you said, Madam Mayor, 2016 to 22 realities.
The only thing is if they were terribly behind in assessments, and that has happened in the past where we were 2 years behind, and we can only go, Barbara, you can correct me and help me out there, how far back we can go. So if a place is completed and it hasn't been fully assessed by impact. So Barbara, did you want to speak to that?
Yeah, so for Dysart, we have a really good relationship with Impact and our representatives, and we work really closely internally to make sure that any building permits that have been granted occupancy, that they're assessed in a relatively timely manner. And Impact has really stepped up to the plate to turn that process around. They can go back 3 years on an assessment for any sort of reassessment. So, but overall, staff do meet with Impact on a regular basis, our account manager, and we do have a very fluent and current process in terms of our assessments.
Yeah. So Madam Mayor, I understand the sentiment here that County Council is expressing through this, but it's not based in fact. And my understanding of the rationale that the province said we're going to wait until it would be 2024 before the new ones come into effect is that there were some wonky things that happened to property values, especially in the early days of the pandemic, and that they wanted to have a chance for that sort of to smooth itself out and for those short-term aberrations to, get the kinks in the system, if you like, to get worked out and this thing to get to a more normal level. And that was, to me, a sound rationale. And, and I don't see the county request here, therefore, any, real basis in fact. It's not costing us any tax revenue. It's a matter of fairness. There is an element of fairness, you're correct, to people that have a brand new place. But there are a bunch of other things that would be out of whack if they rushed ahead and did something based on 2021 property values, for example, when, as I said, the pandemic caused some crazy things to happen. So I'm not sure that the province is wrong with their approach, and would be reluctant to encourage them to change an approach that I think had some considerable logic in it. Thank you.
Okay. Well, we don't have to support it if there isn't support. I think there is that little inconsistency in the actual resolution that both Deputy Mayor Kennedy and I didn't really pick up on at the time, and I apologize for that. I was in favor of encouraging the province to reassess. Either way, it's a 4-year implementation. So we were just, why wait to 2024? And we wanted it implemented in 2023. And if we don't start asking now, it will take that time. But as worded exactly, that I don't know if there's support for this resolution. So we can just not pass it, I suppose, if we do not have a mover and a seconder. I can't even read it. So there, perhaps
I'm happy to move receipt of it, but that's the end of it from my point of view.
Well, the resolution anyway that I have is to support. So we could just change it to receive. Mallory, is that okay? And take out the last one. I think, and then,
That
and
sounds
we,
good. Yeah.
and through Mallory, we communicate that back to the county of what our reservations were, that we do not see it as that we are losing taxation. We see it as an equalization and a more fair assessment we're in support of. So I'm going to change that to receives. And take out the last line that it's going to be forwarded. And just verbally, staff can communicate that. So, so Councillor Smith, I'll take it that you moved that, and I'll look for a seconder to receive. Okay, Deputy Mayor Kennedy. Be it resolved that Dysart et al. Council receives the resolution from the County of Halliburton urging the Government of Ontario to direct the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation to proceed with the province-wide assessment update. And I'll just leave it at that. All in favor? Okay, carried. And Mallory, you can communicate our conversation. You never know, they're probably listening right now, which is good. So next we have development charges. This is also coming from the county, but also to look back at a 2019 staff report that we were going to go forward with this. So Mallory, are you speaking to this as well?
Yeah, I don't have much to add. Just through county council, we've been asked to kind of reconfirm that we'd like to support a development charges study. I noted in it, I don't believe it's a cost to the local municipalities. It's just supporting to go out again and tender, I believe this is, so.
Yeah, there's no cost to us. It's been budgeted through the county already. And council did previously approve that. It's just because some time has been evolved. They want to reconfirm the interest.
And if we go forward with a study, like the study isn't the charges, the study will then come back with recommendations, and there could be development charges. Well, we do have, for an example, a capital connection to the sewer. So that is a Dysart specific. We set the rate ourselves. We could have that needs to be perhaps reassessed. We've talked about that in the background. So there's certain things that we can do at Dysart as well as at the county. And we see this shift happening in development across the county, and there's cost. And we're probably one of the few municipalities that do not have a development charge, or counties. So I think we always thought, well, I don't know what's the word. It's not poor Halliburton, but we were wanting developers to come. Well, developers are coming. Development, even single family dwellings are being built. So there. Anyway, I think it's a really, really good thing to go forward with the study and see where we land on that. So I will look for a mover and a seconder if that's possible, to Councillor Clark, and seconded by Councillor Smith. Be it resolved that Dysart et al. Council agrees to participate in a countywide development charges background study. All in favor? Okay, that's passed. Lame duck. Mallory.
Yeah, so I'll speak to this. So we've been bringing up lame duck a few times. This is kind of early, but I want us to understand the math because it's good to have something to reference back to. So as most of council knows, there's a few periods when you can have lame duck. So it can take place after nomination day, but it can also start after election day. So it will depend on how many individuals are running for re-election and if they're running for re-election in the current office that they're in. So the calculation is 75%, and that basically means that we need six of the same people running again for the same office. So it may start after nomination day. We'll know after our nominations come in, or it could start after following election day to the end of the term. So the way that the legislation's been rewritten, that's really October 24th to November 15th. So it's quite a short period where the second lame duck may take place. So restricted acts are kind of listed in here. You can't appoint or remove an officer of the municipality, the hiring or dismissal of an employee, the disposition of any real or personal property of the municipality that has a value exceeding 50 grand, and making any expenditures or incurring any other liability that exceeds 50,000. So in the past for Dysart, The authority has been delegated to the CAO and treasurer during the lame duck period so that municipal business can continue to progress. So that's what's being recommended in this report. Any questions I'm happy to answer. Also in this report, it gives different examples of what could happen at the bottom, which is more for me than anyone else. So it just says, this would happen in this case, and this would happen in this case, and doing the math for the people run for different offices, or anything that could happen in those different cases. So that's there for council as well if they're interested. So any questions, please let me know.
Thank you, Mallory. I appreciated the math and trying to understand it, even though we've been here before. So the powers outlined it. I mean, the key one really is about staff. We would not want to be in a situation where, particularly in a hiring situation, where we're frozen and not able to hire an important position in that time period. And when we say nomination day, it's not the opening, it's the closing. It's when nomination days end. So technically the last council meeting is in July, because we don't meet as a council until the end of August. So any kind of all those other decisions that we want to make would get made prior to that. So are there any further questions to Mallory for that? We're going to delegate power during that lame duck. Okay, so a mover seconder, please. Councillor Clark, and seconded by Councillor Smith. Be resolved that council acknowledges receipt of the staff report regarding restricted acts after nomination day, and further that council supports the recommendation to delegate its power under section 275 (3) of the Municipal Act 2001 to the Chief Administrative Officer and Treasurer, and directs that a bylaw be brought forward for consideration. All in favor? Okay, carried. So next is the bylaw for our remuneration. I need a mover and a seconder for that. Deputy Mayor Kennedy and Councillor Donaldson. Be it resolved that bylaw 2022-27, being a bylaw to establish remuneration rates for members of council, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and the corporate seal attached thereto. All in favor? Okay, carries. A bylaw for mileage allowance. It's interesting. This is all coming forward thick and fast. The library board, Halliburton County Library Board, passed a new mileage allowance rate, and the county is looking at this also. So Tamara, or is it Mallory who's speaking to this?
Yeah, so the policy, it's our same policy, but it's just been updated so that we're using the current Canada Revenue Agency rate. And then that wording means that we don't have to keep going back and updating the rate because we're just following the rate at the time of submission. So that's the way it's been updated. And yeah, any questions, let me know.
Okay, Councillor Smith.
Thank you. And through you, Madam Mayor, to, I guess, then Mallory. I've raised this last meeting, and I'm happy to see the concept here. I was a little troubled by the detail, though. You said the rate will be based on the current rate, CRA, reasonable per kilometer, at the time that the travel expense report is submitted. If you submitted a report in February, for example, or January for travel in December, the old rate, the rate for the previous year would be in effect when you did the travel, but by waiting to submit the expense report, you'd be getting the new rate. That's not, the way it's intended, if you like. So I'm wondering if we might just change that and stay at the time that the travel occurred, as opposed to when the report was submitted.
Well, Barbara can speak to that, but if you filed in February for any expense in December, it'd be probably, you wouldn't receive it. You'd be too late. Barbara,
well, even if you filed it in January, if you filed it on January the 3rd, it would still be, that's the rate that's in effect. I mean, the CRA in this case made an announcement on December the 23rd as to what the rates would be for 2022. And,
So let's, Barbara's got her ready. Go ahead.
Yeah, so from a process standpoint, in terms of expense reports, we in finance do advocate and follow up with staff to make sure we have pretty good cutoff. I would say probably 99% cutoff at year end. And the trigger for the rate to change is January 1 of the calendar year. So I do believe there is very little exposure that would be immaterial from a financial standpoint. And we really don't pay out huge dollar values for mileage. So again, if there would be any exposure there, it's very immaterial.
Yeah, it's not like it's changing 10 cents a liter or something like that. It's a penny or 1 penny or something like that per, not liter, sorry, kilometer. So I know what you're saying is it should be paid out if at the to the time of what the expense is, but the only time that's ever going to happen is that December, January, because CRA sets it for the year and it is pennies. So it's,
yeah, I'm not, it's not going to break our bank. It's a matter of following, what I'll call a proper process, that the rate that's in effect in December is the December rate. And just because you don't submit the form until January, you shouldn't get the following year's rate. It's as simple as that. And
so
obviously
the
a council
language,
decision.
no, so it just could say at the rate that their travel expense report or the travel expense is incurred. They'd have to look back. Is there any problem with staff changing that on procedure number 1?
I think it's just so immaterial, it might be forgotten down the road anyway. Like, you're really talking about a very small amount. And if the invoice is, or if the statement is split where they have some mileage in December and some in January, the amount of time you spent staff looking these things up, you've spent your mileage increase 10
All right,
times.
so for that sake, I'll just read it as presented, and it is, I understand it's just a little small semantics. So I'll look for a mover and a seconder to revise the policy. Councillor Clark, and seconded by Councillor Wood Roberts. Be it resolved that Council adopts the revised mileage allowance policy as written to repeal and replace policy number 37, mileage allowance policy. All in favor? Okay, that's passed. And lastly is the council vacancy policy, and we already discussed that at committee of the whole, so that's just bringing it forward, what to do in the event that we have a vacant seat. So I'll look for a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Donaldson and Councillor McKechnie. Be resolved that council adopts policy number 68, council vacancy policy as written. All in favor? Okay, carried as well. Now we've got quite a little lengthy planning section, so we'll see where we go and get through that. We'll bring in some planning staff. Looks like a lot, but we might be able to get through it fairly quickly. Let's wait till, okay, I see Chris. Okay, welcome planning staff, Chris and Jeff. And so the first are from the file. So I believe that's you, Chris.
That's correct. Yeah, so this one is for the file number D14ZB 2022-001, lands of Mina and Hamel. Staff do not have any further comment, and if council does consider the bylaw, the resolution and bylaw as provided would be acceptable.
There was one comment made this morning regarding fish habitat and the timing of the construction. How does that get incorporated into this? Mallory?
I think that was for the Percy Lake item.
Yes.
So we're going to incorporate it into their site plan agreement.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I knew that. And this is the Quonset hut that, yep, got it. Okay, Hoover seconder. Councillor Clark, second by Councillor McKechnie. Be it resolved that bylaw 2022-24 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2005-120 for the lands of Minna and Hamel, known as Part Lot 29, Concession 10 in the geographic township of Guildford, municipality of Dysart et al., which would change the zone on the subject property from waterfront residential type 4L zone to waterfront residential type 4L-7 exception zone in order to permit a Quonset hut as a storage shed on the subject property be read a first, second, third time, pass, sign, and the corporate seal attached thereto. All in favor? Okay, so that passes. And the second file, and then now my question. But go ahead.
So this is for the file number D14 ZB 2022-002, lands of Risto, and staff don't have any further comments. We can discuss at the site plan agreement, which is the next file coming up. We'll comment on your question there, and staff recommend approval on this application.
Okay, so I'll have a mover in a second. Councillor Smith, go ahead.
Yes, and maybe this belongs in the site plan agreement also, but the staff report recommended that silt fencing be installed during construction. We put that make that a requirement in the site plan agreement.
Yes, that's a great point, and I do have that noted down here that during construction, the site plan preparation, including sediment fencing, shall be installed. So we can include that into the site plan agreement.
So we'll make that in the plan agreement because I think it's an important protection.
Yes. So that's actually, I was jumping the queue quite a bit of ahead. So this is just for the zoning. Then item C, the next item down is the site plan. So we're just all ahead of things today. So I will just look for a mover and a seconder for the zoning. Councillor Clark, and seconded by Councillor Smith. Be it resolved that bylaw 2022-28 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2005-120 for the lands of Risto, known as lots 26 and 27, concession 8, lot 2, plan 19M3 in the geographic township of Harborne, municipality of Dysart et al., which would change the zone on the subject property from residential waterfront type 3L zone to waterfront type 3L-9 zone be read a first, second, third time, pass, sign, and the corporate seal attached thereto. All in favor? Okay, so that passes. And next is the site plan agreement, of which Chris just spoke to. I don't know that there's anything further. He will add that.
Yeah, I can certainly just do a quick,
to it. Sure.
Just a quick overview. So this is just as a result of the concurrent zoning application, which the requirements of the section 15.2 of the official plan, 15.22 of the official plan requires the applicant to enter into a site plan agreement for the storage shed. As such, the subject is proposed to the conditions. It is staff's opinion that the proposed meets the general requirements of section 15.22 of the municipal official plan and the intent of the municipal zoning bylaw, and therefore recommend council approve the site plan agreement subject to conditions and additional requirements as directed by council. And then council has noted, based on discussion, I have the following: the spawning areas. Staff will add to agreement a clause that construction is to take place during certain, or not to take construction during certain times of the year, so certain months of the year. The use of the shed was another item that came up. The agreement will include information from section 15.2.2 of the official plan, which does reflect use of the storage shed. So we'll add that into the agreement as well. And then during the construction, as noted, the proper site preparation and construction methods are to be used to prevent sediment into the adjacent lake, so including sediment fencing. If council, if there's anything that I missed, please let me know. Otherwise, if council is in agreement with the above noted, I believe a resolution has been prepared to address that.
I just had mentioned the, just be sure that they were aware of the county tree cutting bylaw. That might be in there, I'm not sure.
Yeah, we can definitely have that in.
Okay, and Mallory?
I'm just gonna, I have a amended resolution.
Great.
And it just, so we've highlighted what we're gonna put in, but it just kind of mentions that we're going to pass it as amended. So I'll read the resolution that do you want to look for a mover in a second first?
Well, what you can read it, you read it first, and then to make sure we did capture all that, and then I'll look for the mover seconder.
So be it resolved that the report for the lands legally known as Lot 26 and 27, Concession 8, Lot 2, Plan 19M3, and the geographic township of Havelock, municipality of Desert at all be received as information. And that bylaw 2022-29 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a site plan agreement with Joanne and Mark Bristow be read a first, second, third time passed, signed, in the corporate seal attached here too. Execution of the agreement by the mayor and clerk will be deferred until the following conditions have been met. 1, registered order to pay any outstanding taxes. 2, registered order to pay all administration and legal fees owed to the municipality. And 3, site plan agreement to be amended to include information as directed by council. And then I'll note the direction in the minutes.
Okay, so a mover for that, please. Councillor McKechnie and Councillor Wood Roberts. You heard Mallory reading of the resolution, so all in favor. Okay, that's carried. Thank you for those comments. Okay, so now we'll move on to lands of Vincent and Falls.
Yes, thank you. I'll take this one. Mr. and Mrs. Vincent and Mr. and Mrs. Falls have agreed to sever a property which they jointly own. And the severance is for lot addition to their respective individually owned properties on either side of it. Given that the subject lands are located on a plan of subdivision, a deeming bylaw is required to facilitate the lot additions. And the deeming bylaw is also a condition of application for consent H-013/21. The intent of the deeming bylaw is to allow those severed portions of the middle property to be attached to their individually owned properties. Unless council has any questions, staff recommend approval of the deeming bylaw.
You know, in a day and age when land is ridiculous prices, this is kind of nice to see. It's actually a reduction on the lake. That was a buildable lot, and now it's they're just going to have 2 lovely lots. So I don't know if there's any, how could we refuse? Okay, so mover and a seconder for that then, unless there's another comment. Councillor Wood Roberts and Councillor Clark. Be resolved that bylaw 2022-30, which is a bylaw to deem lots 10, 11, and 12, registered plan 621 in the geographic township of Dudley, not to be within a plan of subdivision for the purpose of section 50-3 of the Planning Act RSO 1990, be amended, as amended, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and the corporate seal attached thereto. This bylaw is intended to allow severed parcels lot 11, plan 621, and the benefiting parcels lot 10 and 12, plan 621, of application for consent H-013-21 to merge in title. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. The close and convey ashore road allowance on Drake Lake, Sidsworth.
Yes, thank you. And I'll apologize now. I do have some long-winded resolutions for you to read today. But the next application is a bylaw to close and convey a shore road allowance. Council did view this at their meeting in February. The application was deferred at the council meeting in February to allow staff to obtain a registered survey. The registered plan has now been received, and a bylaw is attached for council consideration. The purchase price for the road allowance is set at $4,688 as per standard policy, and staff recommend approval of the bylaw.
Okay, questions or comments? Deputy Mayor Kennedy?
No questions on this. A question on where do the funds go that we received, the 4688? Is that just going to general development fund? One reason I'm asking is things at the county level with the shoreline protection bylaw may have implications.
I'll let Barbara confirm, but yes, my understanding is that all proceeds from road allowance closures and conveyances go to the development reserve.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Yeah.
Barbara's nodding. That said, when we develop policies for reserves and reserve fund balances, etc., there may be something. I know you and I had talked too about, if this is purchasing the shore allowance, then should we be dedicating some of it to encouraging the properties that Dysart owns. Yes, so there are parks in our waterfronts and our boat launches and that type of thing, because it's waterfront to waterfront. So hopefully that'll come about maybe in some policies as we develop those throughout the year. So for now, I will look for a mover and a seconder if I could for this. Councillor Clark, and seconded by Councillor Smith. Be resolved that bylaw 2022-31, which is a bylaw to stop up, close, and convey a portion of the original shore road allowance in front of part lot 32 and 33, concession 6, in the geographic township of Dysart, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and the corporate seal attached thereto. All in favor? Okay, that's passed. Next file is the where am I? Sorry. Pride, Lands of Pride.
Yes, thank you. Mr. and Mrs. Pride have made application to purchase the shore road allowance in front of their property on Grace Lake for the purpose of reconstructing their attached deck. There is a dwelling and shed located on the property, which are not located on the shore road allowance. For council's information, the dwelling was first assessed in 1946 and therefore has legal non-complying status with regards to the water setback. As per the site plan submitted, the attached deck encroaches on the shore road allowance. We do not have record of a building permit for the attached deck. However, as noted in my report, historically, we have not always required building permits for attached decks, especially dating back that far. We looked through our records for the first indication of this structure. Even some of the older building permits don't even include site plans. And the first one that did was 1998, which did show the attached deck. But to summarize, it's unclear whether that deck's location is recognized pursuant to the official plan. So staff do seek direction from council with regards to the attached deck and whether it's okay to remain in that location. The last item on the report is that there's a staircase on the northern lot line, which belongs to the neighboring property owner, and it encroaches on the applicant's property. It's not located on the shore road allowance, so I don't think council's direction is required, and staff will advise the applicant of this encroachment issue. Other than that, staff requests direction with regards to the deck and approval to process this application.
Okay, so some comments regarding the deck. Councillor Smith and Deputy Mayor Kennedy.
Thank you. So, Madam Mayor, through you, I guess to Jeff, I'm not sure how, based on the information that's provided, is this something council should decide, or is this a topic that should go to the Committee of Adjustment where they have to deal with these types of situations?
No, it's council can make a decision on this. I guess what I'm asking council to make a decision on is whether they recognize the location of that deck as having some sort of legal non-complying status. And if so, then it wouldn't require the Committee of Adjustment to make a decision on a variance, because their reconstruction of that deck would comply with section 3.19 of the bylaw.
Okay, then do you have a recommendation based on the knowledge that you have? You've seen more of the file than we have in the summary report.
I think he can. I think what Jeff is probably trying to say is that we at council can say it has legal non-conforming status. If they were to encroach any further, if they were to change the deck, if they were to enlarge it, go towards the water, that would need a minor variance. But as it stands, as it is right now, I would say it has legal non-conforming status. From the photographs, it looks integral to the cottage. It's but any change, anytime, they would require a building permit, which would require a minor variance, likely, even if they own the shore road allowance. It's still encroaching. So, and there was just a little bit of typo. It says staff will advise the applicant of the encroachment issue regarding the stairs, but that's a neighboring issue. That's really got nothing to do with this. It's just came up. So I'm comfortable saying it has legal non-conforming. Deputy Mayor Kennedy was next, I believe, and then Councillor Clark.
I think given the ambiguity of the 1998 and the deck was already there, and just actually when it was built, that I would go in favor of the applicant here and approve this request.
Okay, Councillor Clark.
To support the pre-existing non-conforming, but I think there should be some documentation to actually get the measurements and get that on and a recognition on site that this is non-conforming, and that the applicant or the owner understands that there's the maintenance is allowed but no expansion, including covering. So I think we have to be they have to recognize that this is grandfathered, but they're not entitled to make it bigger or anything else. Okay.
Yeah, through the building, if I may, through the building permit process, they will review in the context of our zoning bylaw and ensure it complies with the section that details with legal non-compliant structures.
Okay. Is everybody comfortable with that? And the other staircase issue is a neighborly issue, not for us to concern at this point, or actually at any point between the neighbors. Okay, a mover and a seconder, if I could. Councillor McKechnie and Councillor Smith. Be resolved that council approves for processing an application by Mr. and Mrs. Pride to purchase a portion of the shore road allowance along the shore of Grace Lake in front of their property. Part Lot 1, Concession 1 in the geographic township of Harcourt. These lands are declared surplus. All in favor? Okay, carried. And so the next file is permission to cross a 1-foot reserve. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yes, and actually the next two files are quite similar. They're adjacent property owners that own property in Eagle Lake, where access is provided by a road allowance that originates off Chalet Road. To access their lot, they are required to build a driveway that crosses a 1-foot reserve shown on Plan 564. Construction of a road on the road allowance is permitted by the subdivision agreement for Plan 564. An entrance permit is not required because the municipality does not maintain this road, but council permission is required to permit the location of a driveway that crosses that 1-foot reserve. Staff recommend council grant this permission and are available to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, any questions? Okay, that's seems fairly straightforward. Mover and a seconder then for this file. Councillor Donaldson and Councillor Smith. Be it resolved that council grants permission to the registered owners of Lot 51, Plan 564 to cross the 1-foot reserve shown on Plan 564 at the location shown on the attached site plan. All in favor? Okay, so carried. And the next file is similar, so I'll just, if there's anything else to add there.
No, it's quite similar, different names, and the next door lot. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay. That's good. At least they're asking permission and they found that out. So move over to seconder. Deputy Mayor Kennedy, Councillor McKechnie. Be resolved that council grants permission to the registered owners of Lot 52, Plan 64 to cross the 1-foot reserve shown on Plan 564 at the location shown on the attached site plan. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. Okay, now the next application, is there someone coming in to speak to this as well, I believe?
Yes, and I
first
I
I'll
see him on screen here. Right?
Okay, I'll start with staff first. So if the staff want to comment on this first. Yeah.
Okay, and I'll summarize my report for Logan. You pass it on to Logan, but the applicants own 6 properties in the village of Halliburton that have no road access. The applicants have started construction on an extension to Dome Street to access these properties. Given that a portion of the road is located on the municipally owned road allowance, council permission is required to proceed. The applicant has submitted a request to council for permission to use this road allowance off Dome Street for access. The applicants plan to build the roadway to municipal specifications, and their long-term plans are actually to request that council assume and maintain that section of road that is on the municipally owned road allowance. Policy 32, which is a policy to govern the use of municipal road allowances, provides direction to council and supports this request to use the road allowance. I've provided some sections of that policy in my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions that council may have regarding that policy. But based on the direction provided in that in policy 32, staff recommend council pass the above resolution.
Okay, so Logan, we have you on screen speaking for Total Site Services, or is there anything you want to add to this?
No, unless you guys have any questions for me, I think I'll try and simplify it and not extend this any longer than needed, but happy to answer any questions.
So this is a little bit, though, I have to say, of requesting after some work had already taken place. And so just, you know, I think people, the earlier applications across the 1 foot, I mean, you do need to ask permission first. It's great to see new lots open up in the village, especially using, you know, a road allowance. It's great. I think they're beautiful lots. I've been up there. So where on the key map to Jeff, the yellow portion is the only portion that they're crossing Dysart. Other than that, then they create their own road down there using, is that lot 8? Don't know the numbers there on their other map. They're calling it lot number 8. So Logan, you're bringing your own road down. You're only using that one little section on the Dysart road allowance, correct?
Correct. We'll turn back into the lots that are private and extend it beyond that. But yes, we're going to end it there, and we're going to create a turnaround where it turns into private.
So the only thing is talking with staff, what do they call it? Not maintaining the taking over of a municipal road that is already our road built to standard, but we would need some conversation with our Director of Public Works to assume the remainder portion of the road. So we don't have Public Works on again, Mallory, maybe that could be conveyed to him, that request. And Jeff, maybe you can comment on that. Thank you.
Yeah, and that bit of information was just being provided for council's information at the moment. Council today is not being asked to make a decision on the long-term access of this road allowance for now. They're just being asked to grant permission to use this road allowance so that they could do work on a road allowance for the privately maintained road/driveway.
And I understand that it's in the long term, but at the same time, how a road gets actually physically built and the base is probably really important. So it would be helpful to get, I think Rob's been up viewing that, and I think the material that you're using is solid rock, and there's no great hill there. I mean, Dome has a higher hill. Once you're there, it's all fairly rolling. It's nothing too steep. So I know that request is coming further down the pipe, but it's also best to have Rob in on it from the get-go, so that when that request comes forward, that we're aware of how the road was built in the base and the main, et cetera, the width, the depth. So Logan, I'll leave that up to you.
I'll get a hold of him right away. We have talked to him about it. I know it because we hadn't got our approval when we'd started. He wanted to make sure that happened before we got too far along with him and didn't go too off track any more than necessary. But yes, 100%.
Okay, that's great. Especially for instance where it ends at lot 2, it would have to create enough of a room for a turnaround for whatever equipment is used. So I'll just leave that up to you for now.
Yep.
We are just looking at the permission to use the Councillor Smith. I'll take a question. Cool.
Thank you. I guess to me the sort of obvious question here is how does a local reputable business end up working on public property before they got permission? So Logan, that's you. You're the local reputable business. I mean, I would normally think you'd follow the rules, and it sounds like municipal staff said, gee, what's that guy doing constructing a road on public property?
I'm not trying to pass blame off at all. It's our fault 100%. I think we believed that we'd notified and that it was in process. But I would say that's our lack of understanding of how it actually works, that we needed to get an official. And I look back at my emails. I know Jeff did make that clear to us that we needed to go to council. We thought we'd submitted the forms. It's confusing because there's a different owner than us that authorizes us to do this work on his private lots. So we thought he'd submitted a form that got the ball rolling, and he didn't. And then he thought we did it. So that was a mess. But really the truth of it is that we didn't understand, and we definitely need to be more careful.
Okay. Well, thank you for that.
This isn't a normal
That was
thing in
my
our-
question when I read the report. This is not a reckless business. This is a guy who normally knows what he's doing. And I was just surprised, and I was curious.
We honestly didn't think that, we thought we'd gotten the process going enough that it was okay, but I mean, we definitely learned a lesson here. It's not the way it's supposed to be, and we should have been a little more careful for sure. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so any further questions? Okay, so I will look for a mover and a seconder then to Deputy Mayor Kennedy and Councillor Clark. So the private landowner that owns all the lots, they're quite substantial. They're good sized lots. They'll be absolutely beautiful and a great addition to the village. So with that, we have be it resolved that council grants permission to the registered owners of rolls number 012-000-81100. And I will read the last digits of the other roll numbers: 84600, 80650, 80625, 43525, and 43500, located in lots 17 and 18, concession 8 and 9, further described as lots 2, 3, 7, 8, block 10, plan 1, part lot 5, block 11, plan 1, and lot 4, block 12, plan 1, in the geographic township of Dysart, to cross and use a portion of the road allowance on plan 1, located between blocks 10 and 12. Plan 1 and blocks 11 and 13, plan 1, in the geographic township of Dysart, municipality of Dysart et al., as shown on the sketch attached to the signed acknowledgement form. Use is restricted to the driveway shown on said sketch attached to the signed standard acknowledgement form. Permission extends to heirs, executors, and invited guests, and is subject to the terms and conditions outlined in the municipality's standard acknowledgement form for use of a road allowance. Use is restricted to normal vehicle and pedestrian traffic associated with uses permitted in bylaw 2005-120 as amended. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. I didn't see every hand, but I think I did. Okay, carried. That was a mouthful. Okay, thank you, Logan. And yeah, just keep in touch with Rob in terms of what else you're doing up there just for future use. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. See if I can find where I'm at. Okay, the letter of intent for places for people. So this is a little bit, is that where we're at?
Yeah, so at the council meeting on January 22nd, council agreed to convey a small portion of the subject lands to facilitate phase 1 of an affordable housing development with access onto Halliburton Crescent. Council further agreed to permit places for people, to act as agent for the zoning amendment application, and directed staff to work with the municipal solicitor to prepare a letter of intent. Since that time, Places for People have agreed to act as agent for the zoning amendment. Once this letter of intent has been executed, a phased approach using a small portion of the subject lands will allow this project to proceed while the matter of long-term access between Halliburton Crescent and Wallings Road is resolved. The municipal solicitor has now provided the draft letter of intent for council consideration. There is a blank section in section 5 of the letter of intent that outlines the exclusivity period. So staff seek direction from council regarding that time period. It should be noted that following the council meeting in January, Places for People provided 5 additional comments and requests, which I have outlined in the report. I'm happy to review them if you like, but note that the first 3 comments and requests have been included in the draft letter of intent. As per the second comment, Places for People are requesting that they be reimbursed should this application and conveyance not proceed. They note that to date, they have commissioned a geotechnical study of which the value is included in the estimated costs, which I have attached to this agenda. They also note that they incurred substantial architectural and engineering modeling fees in excess of $26,000. They're asking for a contribution. They did not specify a value, but noted that whatever council determines to be fair towards these expenses as an acknowledgement of costs incurred. This value has not been included in that estimated costs or that summary. The 4th and 5th comments were not included based on an opinion provided by our municipal solicitor. In response to the 4th comment, the municipal solicitor notes that there is no specific need to prepare an agreement of purchase and sale. It would just be unnecessarily increase the costs of this process. In response to the 5th comment, he notes that this concern will be addressed during the zoning process. Basically, if the zoning is approved, then access will have been approved. And furthermore, once the land is transferred, the owner of the land abutting a public highway has a common law right, or at least is entitled to an entrance permit off of Halliburton Crescent. So staff seek direction for all 5 of these comments and their inclusion in the letter of intent. As I've mentioned, I've included a document that outlines the estimated costs associated with this letter of intent, which total $19,703. I apologize, there was a typo on the original report that was drafted with the agenda. As mentioned, this value does not include the value of the subject land, which will be based on an appraisal, or the cost for the contribution to Places for People for the architectural and engineering modeling fees. Staff seek direction from council pertaining to the draft letter of intent and associated costs, as well as the exclusivity period and the comments provided by Places for People. And I'm happy to answer any questions and anything I can do to help.
Okay, well, I'm sure there's going to be lots of questions, but also you are looking for specific direction. So I am going to kind of throw it back to you to take us through step by step so we don't go bing, bing all over the place. So do you want to start with the exclusivity period? That might be something we could all agree on. We'll agree on one, try to find consensus on one thing at a time.
Sure. So I'll just read section 5 that talks about the exclusivity period. It states that during the period commencing on the date upon which this letter of intent has been signed by all parties and ending on the date that I'm looking for, Dysart will not directly or indirectly solicit any offers for the purchase of the donated lands or the Wallings Road site, B, negotiate or otherwise respond other than to decline to enter into discussions with respect to any such transaction, or C, provide any information to any party to assist in implementing any such transaction other than to Places for People and its representatives.
Okay, so you have.
Does council want to?
Sure. So you have a comma 2022. Is it realistic to put December 31st, 2022? Is there anywhere in the letter of intent that if, like I can't imagine, but it might not be completed by then, that it could be extended? Is December 31st a realistic date?
As I've said from the beginning, it's really hard to put timeframes on planning approvals because it depends when information is received, and how many public comments are received. It's really hard to pin it down. We could change it from a date to a certain amount of time after zoning has been approved. If that might be an easier way to do it.
Except this has come from our lawyer, right? So I think we should maybe adhere to that and put in a date, but put in a date that's realistic. And we went through this before. Tamara?
I was going to say Jeff could take that suggestion back though to see if he's fine with that, because it may make sense as not having to keep coming back.
And I have the ability to amend this letter of intent Basically, this exclusivity period is how long council wants to negotiate in confidence with places for people. We can put a date that's in 2022. I am very hopeful that the zoning will be completed by that date, by the end of the year. But if council chooses, we can also amend it to say a certain amount of time after the zoning has been completed.
Okay, lame duck does not affect council's decision to make zoning decisions, correct? No. So we still, it still could be into September. So I'm going to look to the rest of council. Do we want to put an actual date with, as I suggested, December 31st, 2022? Or would we like Jeff to go back to the lawyer and say that it ties in with the zoning application? Councillor Clark.
Yeah, tying in with the zoning application seems to make some good sense, and it kind of sets a bit of a precedent for some that's going forward. So that's good.
Anyone else feel a date or the tie in the zoning? My only concern, and I'll just say it out loud, is in the event of an appeal for a zoning application, whether it's warranted or not, or the Ontario Land Tribunal rejects it or denies, just in the event, it could take years. So if we're tying it to the zoning, just be aware of that. That's all. Jeff?
I just wanted to bring one other thing to council's attention. So this exclusivity period, as it's written in this letter of intent, not only applies to the portion being conveyed, but also to the portion that we are retaining until we figure out long-term access. So it applies to the entire lands. I just wanted to make sure council is aware of that.
Mallory? And then Councillor Smith.
Yeah, this is a question more for Jeff. In terms of administration, is it easier to just put a drop dead date and then bring back the letter of intent to pass it again if you're extending it? I'm just thinking what's going to trigger you on that date if it's waiting for zoning in the background or something like that. Is it easier in your administration of this to have a date, or?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Once that date passes, then I suppose council could entertain offers for that land from somebody else. Yeah, it doesn't implicate my zoning, rezoning application.
Okay, so Councillor Smith, you're next.
Thank you. I kind of like the specific date. It doesn't mean that we will do something, but it keeps the option open for us. It comes back to council because, as Mayor Roberts has indicated, if this thing goes to an appeal and Ontario Land Tribunal, these things can take a long time, and and nothing's happening. Whereas if there's a date, December 31st, to use the one that was put out, council of the day hears this again and has a chance to say, yeah, okay, well, we've got an issue, we're going to carry that further, or we're saying no. I mean, this, we're going to talk a lot about this thing today, but there's many aspects of this whole concept that have become far more difficult than anybody anticipated. We thought we were giving somebody a piece of land, we're going to build some affordable housing, it was all going to be simple and straightforward, and it's become difficult for a lot of reasons. And so rather than putting something there that may almost create an indefinite period of time, if it's defined date of December 31st, to use that example, council of the day has a chance to re-examine whatever new circumstances may have arisen and saying, okay, well, based on this, we're going to do something different. If we leave it as an indefinite date, it's out of our control. We've entered into something that could drag out for years. And we may be, or a succeeding council may be very unhappy with that, but we will have tied their hands. And so that's why I think that putting a specific date would be a better approach. Thank you.
That was sort of my thought, and I'll just ask before I open up, I see another question, that could we add a sentence that says Dysart may extend the exclusivity period, blah, blah, something that we retain the right to extend that if we want to, and word it in legal language. What do you, so in the event it hasn't gone through, election happens, brand new council, they can put it on their December meeting and go, oh gosh, look, it didn't go through, but it's really close. Like it actually, we're just waiting for the appeal period or just something, one little thing. It's not gonna, and really this is just saying that the corporation's not gonna go out and say, oh, we got a better offer over here. That was never our intention anyway, but I just think a little clause in there that Dysart has that ability to extend the exclusivity period at its sole discretion. What do council think about that? Nods. Yes. So Jeff, perhaps we could add that in under section 5. Put in a date of December 31st, 2022, and then add a sentence that it's at Dysart's ability to extend. Okay.
Yep, thank you. I've noted it down, and this is just a draft at the moment. We can update it and then provide it to places for people for their.
Okay. I think they would probably like that we're, could extend it. So next thing that we need to discuss, can you walk me through it?
Yes. All right. So I did include that I'm seeking direction with regards to the associated costs. Perhaps we go through that.
Yes. Yeah.
Maybe we can go through the 5 comments provided by Places for People.
Okay, so the costs as listed in that are one thing, but the fee of the $26,000 for architectural and engineering modeling. How does anyone feel about that? Is our contribution of land not significant enough? So, Deputy Mayor Kennedy.
Yeah, we've made a substantial contribution here with the land, and I would defer any further contributions other than what has already been agreed to. Land conveyance be deferred until such time as the project is closer to completion rather than coming back repeatedly to the trough in this.
Okay, I did see Councillor Smith, I think you were wanting to comment on that as well.
Well, I'd echo what the Deputy Mayor said. This is, I understand, and look at it, the best way to get a request from charity for money is to give them something, because as soon as you make a donation, they immediately ask for more. And to me, that's what we're seeing here. We as a municipality stepped forward with I thought a very generous offer of giving an organization land to build affordable housing, and they just keep asking for more. I expressed earlier misgivings about the waiving of fees, because that's something we would normally do where somebody else showed up with the land. And I can see, they've gone ahead and spent some money before everything was tied down, and that's on them. They made that decision on their own. Far be it from the taxpayers to subsidize this. So I'd say no to that, and there'd be some other things that they no to, in my opinion. Thank you.
Okay, so thanks, Councillor Smith. Just to be clear, and I think Deputy Mayor Kennedy, are you okay with the attachment of the letter of, with the estimated costs of land conveyance, zoning, appraisal, survey, etc., all of those that Dysart would cover, but not the architectural and engineering modeling fees? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So and again, it's just estimated at $19,700.
Is that also that the reason rationale for that is it's part of our agreement with the county lower tiers to convey some of this. So that's my rationale for that portion of it, but not the engineering design, the design phase of it.
Okay, so I just want to clarify. So I just want to look and see if we have concurrence agreement on that. And I see thumbs and I see nods of yes. So we will not cover the additional or contribute to the architectural and engineering modeling fees. Okay, so Jeff.
Yes, just seeking a bit of clarification there. Included in that $19,703 estimate is there the geotechnical study that Places for People commissioned in the amount of $5,830. So as per the letter of intent, specifically clause J, that's where it says that we will reimburse them for reports and studies. Did we want to remove clause J and therefore remove both the architectural and energy costs as well as the geotechnical, or are we looking to leave the geotechnical in there?
Well, the geotechnical kind of goes with the land in the event that wherever the other clause is, that if the zoning application wasn't successful and the land reverted or stays with Dysart, that we would pay those fees. I'll look to the rest of council to comment on that. Councillor Smith, go ahead.
So why wouldn't we say that the geotechnical assessment is on places of people? But if, as you note, if the rezoning doesn't get approved and the land reverts back to us, because that would help us with any future activity on the land, we'll reimburse them then. But again, we're giving them the land, and we didn't promise to dress it up, if you like, before we gave it to them. We're giving you land. It's very valuable land. And you need to do certain things to develop it. Well, that included a geotechnical assessment, and that's on people.
Okay, so, yeah, Jeff?
If I may, that clause J does specifically say, should the rezoning be unsuccessful. So that clause only kicks in if it doesn't proceed.
Right. So we would only pay it if it was, currently they're going to be paying it. So we just want to be really clear, Jeff, with what we're agreeing to. I think things like whatever's involved in administration planning for under the land conveyance, yes, we'll cover. Under the zoning bylaw amendment, yes, we'll cover. Are we covering both the environmental impact study and the geotech study?
The environmental impact study's already been commissioned. We already have it, and it is available on our website. The geotechnical study is what they're requesting at the moment. Most of these fees have already been spent, other than we still need to obtain an appraisal and obtain a survey, as well as the land conveyance costs.
Okay, so just for clarification to what Councillor Smith said is we will take out the geotech study. We'll only pay those studies in the event that the land reverts back to Dysart and places for people are not successful, and everything else we will cover, including the appraisal fee and the survey fee. Is everybody on board with that? Everybody okay? Mallory?
I just had one point about clause J. So Jeff, do you think that you don't think that clause can be taken more generally to include more studies? Possibly. That's the only question. Like, going to make sure that it's directly tied to what we need for the land itself, and not. Yeah.
Yes, I think it will need to be amended based on the discussion here today, just to lock it down for the geotechnical study only at this time, anyways.
Councillor or Deputy Mayor Kennedy?
Just for clarification, Mallory or Jeff, what commitments have already been made by county and Dysart when it comes to housing projects? Because I think there was a list, I don't have it in front of me, of what who's going to be responsible for what. I just want to make sure we're in compliance with pre-agreed upon conditions. Like, if I know there were some reports that that we're going to give them, whether it be county or us, but we're getting down here now, the nitty gritty actual reports, are they included or not? That's like I said, I don't have the agreement from Kawartha Housing and the county in front of me. So
I'm not 100% clear what you're asking, Deputy Mayor, but for this application, what council has agreed to was to obtain the costs necessary for the rezoning. All costs associated with the site plan agreement portion, including geotech, hydro-G, stormwater, will be at places for people's expense. So really all that was required for the rezoning was the environmental impact study and the traffic study, which have already been obtained.
Okay, those would be the conditions I would think would be in the agreement.
And we're not there with the county, Deputy Mayor Kennedy, yet. That's when they actually apply under the affordable housing project targets, like what we're seeing tomorrow for Maple Avenue Suites. Then you go through building permits, actual permits, ERUs. I think that's when we get into that, and they do the technical report. And as we can see tomorrow, that there is support at the county for the capital connection for sewers. So This is a big shift and great news for us. So I think that's the next step that you're thinking about. So Jeff?
Yeah, if I may, and in the previous version of the letter of intent, the value was much higher given there was stricter language with regards to the affordable housing incentives. And those have been removed from this letter of intent and the estimated cost because that language regarding the affordable housing incentive program has been generalized to that the municipality supports it and that the municipality will donate land. But there could be costs in the future, just so council knows, through that program, but that's not on the table today.
Which I think is really good. I think all that we're really looking at in the letter of intent and costs right now are what it costs to convey the land. And we're coming to the table saying, we'll pay for the survey. We're going to pay for, lost my phrase, an appraisal fee. So it's just the cost of conveying the land. And that is a separate thing that council will have time in the future, once the land is owned properly, to go forward and I think the county will definitely be coming to the table. And so that's a different step.
Correct.
Okay. Councillor Smith.
I understand you saying that's a different step. I guess, my own sentiment, maybe not agreed to by council, my own sentiment is we're giving them the land. Waiving the other fees ought not be on the taxpayers of Dysart. If the county wants to do something, good for the county, because frankly, not all of the residents of this building are going to come from Dysart. Many of them will come from the county. And such, I don't want to put any more into this than what's been talked about. Okay, it's a donation of land. Now we'll get the survey done. The environmental assessment, that's been done. But any other fees, although we would normally make some contribution in other situations where the developer showed up with land they own, because we've given the land the most valuable component of this, that ought to be the end of it in terms of the contribution of our taxpayers.
Well, under the affordable housing program, it's not the end of it. So while that will be counted and will be acknowledged and will be have a value of it, it is a separate discussion which 7 people around the table are going to decide. These are, Michelle Corley will come and the technical team will say these are the costs, and then the council of the day can then decide. No, we're not going to waive the building permit. No, we're not. But it isn't in the letter of intent. It is for a different conversation down the road, and it will be coming forward. The requests will get made only because they're under a program that we adopted. So you can deny them, but it's not for denying them for today. Does that make sense? And I'm not disagreeing with you, but that's a separate conversation.
But why make it a separate conversation? Why not have it now and make it very clear? We're providing the land. End of discussion. Thank you very much. Don't come back and ask for more. We're leading them on here, in my opinion, and that's inappropriate.
Well, I don't know, Tamara, if you want to speak to more of the affordable housing program and understand it, or if another staff want to join in or speak to it, why we're not having the conversation today.
Sorry.
I'm happy to touch base on that if you like.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, so that will be reviewed at a later date because it's up to the applicant to make a request for what incentives they're looking for. It's possible they ask for none. But at that time, when they make application, council will review their requests. Currently, we don't have a policy. It's something being worked on at the county level with all 4 lower tiers. But currently, we don't have a policy. So at that time, it would be at council's sole discretion when it comes in. And council, if they choose, could recognize what's previously been donated. But that's why it hasn't been included, because right now, places where people haven't made a specific request.
There you go. A typo in section G, it says Halliburton Court. Just to be clear, it's Crescent.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so
Councillor Wood Roberts had her hand up.
Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Wood Roberts, go ahead.
Just as Mr. Smith was saying, I do believe when Jody Curry came and talked with council at length about this project, that there would be some control over who lived in that area. And I do believe that she said that would be residents of Halliburton County. Dysart.
Well,
wherever they need to be.
They definitely have a little more control, I believe, than some other organizations, but we're really just discussing the letter of intent for the conveyance of land. And I think Jeff, is there any other questions that I'm missing here before we finish this section? Just one sec, Councillor Smith. I'm just looking at Jeff first, and then I see your hand.
No, I think that's all the direction I'm looking for right now. Of course, subject to any council comments and recommended conditions.
Yeah, okay, I think we've, but one more from Councillor Smith.
Well, there were some other terms in this draft letter of intent that I was hoping we could maybe nail down a little bit as to what they mean.
Okay.
So, for example, in 2F there, it says that we'll provide guidance and assistance, and I'd like to understand, what does that mean? What's the degree of assistance that we're going to provide? Also the same thing in 2D, it liaise and cooperate. Cooperate has a capital C on it. I don't know if that means it's a defined term, but again, you know, I'd like to understand what we think our commitment actually is here. Seen in the final page, the list of costs.
Councillor Smith, why don't we just take those one at a time, because Jeff can't answer. Just you know, okay, so you mentioned sorry, which was the first one? Policy, guidance, and assistance. What does that mean?
Yes, 2F, provide policy guidance and assistance. That's essentially staff's position here. We're happy to provide policy guidance and assistance to applicants and to developers. If they have questions with regarding our policy, we're happy to answer those questions.
I think it's sort of standard language of both those things, to liaison, cooperate. Yes, you can change it to a lowercase c. In terms of the stuff that staff do on a day-to-day basis with any kind of larger application that would come forward. For instance, if they couldn't find where in the zoning bylaw it said what's the height restriction, just as an example, Jeff would say, oh, look, it's there under section 2.3.4. That's what they're there to talk about, not to say how to design it or what to do, and also to work with those incentives as encouraged through the County of Halliburton, City Kawartha Lakes, as which Dysart also adopted. So on that one. So do you want to go to your last point?
Well, in 2D, as I said, it liaise and cooperate. Cooperate has a capital C. I'm not just, I don't know if that's a defined term, but what does that mean? And also in G there, you mentioned Halbian Court Crescent. It says undertake such measures to enable. Again, what are those measures? What is it we're undertaking to do?
Public Works will provide a driveway entrance permit.
Well, if that's what if we're going to provide a permit, or are we going to construct a driveway? Because it's such measures, you know, it's not specific, I guess, is my concern. And we'll provide the administrivia, but we're not going to build a driveway.
If Council wants to clarify, we could change that. Sorry, that's section 2G.
G.
Undertake such measures to issue an entrance permit to enable access to the donated lands. Or we could simplify it that Council's agreed to permit access to phase 1 of the development off of Halbium Crescent.
And I think that's in there, but.
Yeah, because that comes back to being up to, it's not a council. That's up
to it's staff. We're not building a driveway, but it's up to staff yeah. I think it's sort of meant to be vague language. It wouldn't matter once property is zoned properly, like any lot owner in anywhere, then they work with municipal staff out of our jurisdiction to say where can I put my driveway? And how does it be constructed? And where, what size culvert am I supposed to put here? I think it's okay to be a little vague there. That's Councillor McKechnie.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here, and of course, there's a lot of talk here about, all we're doing is giving this. And I just like to know what other projects places people have done, and what of the other communities contributed. And I'm just like, there's so many things here that we're discussing that I wish that maybe a representative from the place for people were here. So, because when we say to them, but just like you're just talking about a driveway, are you expecting us to put a driveway in?
No.
But I mean, I just like for us to sit here, there's so many issues that are going to come up as this ball moves along the road. But I mean, I just think that just us, if we think we're just going to give them the land, my opinion, we have to give them more than just the land. But that's just my opinion. But I mean, I like to know what these other projects they've done. This isn't their first rodeo. So
this is the largest project, though. They have never done a project like this to date. They've purchased other properties and like taken a house and turned it into a duplex or something like that. So I just, for the sake of time and everything else, I do understand that the details are important, but I believe the general letter of intent is good. We've made a couple of changes. Staff asked us for specific direction in terms of an end date. We added a change there, explained some clarification. So I really think that we should be moving on. And I think that it's time to look for a mover and a seconder. I don't know if I'm just going to read the resolution. So therefore, just so you know, I'll read the resolution, then look for a mover and a seconder because it's coming back to council, okay? Be resolved that be it resolved that the herein report dated March 22nd, 2022, pertaining to a letter of intent between the municipality of Dysart et al. And Places for People for an affordable housing development on the lands of the municipality of Dysart et al. In part lot 14, concession 8 in the geographic township of Dysart is received. And further that council accept in principle the contents of the draft letter of intent and direct staff to bring a bylaw forward to a future council meeting to authorize the execution of said letter of intent. So Jeff's heard the comments, he'll plug in the numbers, he'll go back to the lawyer, add that line. Is there a mover and a seconder for this resolution as has been read? Moved by Councillor Clark and seconded by Councillor Donaldson. And I did read it, so I will look for a vote. Is all in favor? Okay, and that's carried. So there's two more things under planning, and then what I'm going to suggest, there's three other little things. Okay, well, let's just keep moving along. And then we'll take a lunch. We'll move to go into closed, and then at that time take a lunch. So if we can hurry up, we'll actually get a lunch. Pre-consultation bylaw. We've already discussed the fees. Anything to report there?
Nothing new on my end to add. This was discussed at the March 8th Committee of the Whole meeting. The final bylaw is now attached for adoption. I'm happy to answer any question council may have.
Okay, I'm just going to look for a mover and a seconder. It's already been discussed. So Councillor Clark and Deputy Mayor Kennedy. Be it resolved that bylaw 2022-32 being a bylaw to require mandatory pre-consultation for certain Planning Act applications be read a first, second, and third time, past signing the corporate seal attached here too. All in favor? Okay, carries. And lastly is the fees and charges bylaw. So I'll look for a mover and a seconder for that as well. Deputy Mayor Kennedy and Councillor Smith. Be it resolved that bylaw 2022-33 being a bylaw to impose fees and charges be read a first, second, and third time, past signing the corporate seal attached here too. All in favor? Okay, carried. Okay, thanks, Planning Department. We have three things under meeting for minutes and recommendations from standing committees. The first is the Committee of the Whole. I'll look for a mover and a seconder for those minutes. Councillor Smith and Councillor McKechnie. Be it resolved that council acknowledges receipt of the draft minutes from the March 8th, 2022 Committee of the Whole as information. All in favor? Okay, carries. Next are the Glee Park and Museum Committee meeting minutes. Any questions, comments there? Just move that along then. Mover, seconder. Councillor Smith, second, sorry, Councillor Wood Roberts. Be it resolved that council acknowledges receipt of the draft minutes from the February 10th, 2022 Glee Park and Museum Committee as information. All in favor? Those pass. And lastly, we have Cultural Resource Committee. And I'll look for mover seconder for those minutes. Councillor Donaldson and seconded by Councillor Wood Roberts. Be it resolved that council acknowledges receipt of the draft minutes of the February 24th, 2022 Cultural Resource Committee as information. All in favor? Okay, that carries. So as I stated earlier, we will move into closed, and I'll ask for a mover to go into closed, and I'm going to ask you to be back to your computers and screens, Mallory, at about 1:25. Okay, if that's okay, that gives us decent time for lunch. So to move, please to go into closed. Councillor Wood Roberts and Councillor McKechnie. Be resolved the council adjourn its regular meeting at 12:41 p.m. to discuss matters pursuant to Section 239, Section 2 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended, pertaining to: one is a proposed disposition of land in the Township of Dysart Industrial Park property. And secondly, a trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, financial, or labor relations information supplied in confidence to the municipality or local board, which if disclosed could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with the contractual or other negotiations of a person, group, or group of persons or organization. It's under the building department. All in favor? Okay, so officially we are in closed. So just turn your screens off and be back at your computers at 1:25. Thanks, everybody. I'll just wait, Lori, till you tell me it's live.
Sorry, it's just taking its time here.
Okay.
it's showing us as live on YouTube right now, Lori. So I think your computer might be frozen. So I think we're good to go.
Okay,
Yeah,
I think we're good
thank
to
you.
go. Hope there wasn't a
Go.
big long pause where we were all just sitting there, but I guess we are back in live now, so that's good.
Thank you.
There is one resolution coming out from closed session in regarding the contract with WSP. So I'm going to read the resolution first in this case, and I'll look for a mover and a seconder. Be resolved that council directs that the contract with WSP be terminated and that the septic reinspection program be managed in-house, and further that staff be directed to confirm staffing requirements to the Personnel and Administration Committee. Do I have a mover and seconder for that resolution? Councillor Clark and Deputy Mayor Kennedy. And you've heard the resolution, then all in favor? And that carries. Okay, and then lastly, I just need a motion to confirm proceedings of today. If I could. Councillor Donaldson and seconded by Councillor McKechnie. Be resolved that bylaw 2022-34 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the regular council meeting held on March 22nd, 2022 be read a first, second, third time, passed, signing the corporate seal attached here too. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. And lastly, just a motion to adjourn. We can get out and enjoy this little sunshine and warm air out there today. This certainly spring is here. So just a motion to adjourn, if I could. We have Councillor Donaldson and Councillor McKechnie. Be it resolved that council adjourn its regular meeting held on March 22nd, 2022 at 3:08 p.m. All in favor? All right, that's carried, and we are now adjourned, and we will see maybe some of you watch online tomorrow for the service delivery review, but we'll see you all on Friday morning at 9 o'clock. Thank you. Have a great day.